Welcome to the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Trish.
And this is our podcast. We talk about wrestling news and various topics from different promotions, primarily AEW, but also New Japan Pro Wrestling, WWE, and topics from around the wrestling world. Whatever we find interesting, and we hope you will too. We are a proud member of the Social Suplex Podcast Network, and you can find our content on our podcast feed, the Social Suplex Podcast feed, as well as on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and rate our podcast. We also encourage you to check out the Social Suplex newsletter, which is published every month and available at socialsuplex.com. It contains tons and tons of news from dozens of promotions around the world, as well as features and other articles by talented wrestling writers. The most recent newsletter came out last week, so please go check it out at socialsuplex.com. And today is Sunday, April 26, 2026. 26, let's go. And we're going to kick things off today with WrestleMania 42, which occurred on the night of April 18th and April 19th, 2026, from Las Vegas, Nevada. And in between the entrances, the skits, the celebrity appearances, and commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial, the WWE also allowed some wrestling to break out. Each night had approximately 85 minutes of wrestling, give or take, in shows that lasted 3 hours and 20 minutes and 3 hours and 5 minutes, respectively. Folks, that does not include the pre-show. Night one was universally panned. It has a current cage match rating of 2.86, while night two was universally praised with a current cage match rating of 6.75. Trish, what did you think about WrestleMania? Did it live up to the hype? Did you feel like there was enough angles about the business?
It's really funny. There was a segment at the the Orton Cody match on the first night where Cena is almost taking the piss out of their own WrestleMania. Like, this is a very polarizing build. And it's a very fucking polarizing show. And I always get, it's not sentimental, but it's a natural thing to compare to the things that you've seen, right? So, right. As someone who's been to multiple WrestleManias and who've watched since I was, a kid, it's really hard to watch this in comparison. And it's especially hard to watch it with the way things are now, because there are so many structural changes to the show, let alone the actual wrestling itself, that it becomes kind of real difficult. So yeah, 52 minutes of commercials on night one. I think
commercials.
I saw more of the Hulk Hogan fucking documentary thing on Netflix than I did actually wrestling on the show. That's what it felt like.
And again, you had an hour. The first hour of the show was broadcast on ESPN2 on night one, correct? Mm-hmm. ESPN for the second night. So you had people who were watching the first hour, I want to say for free, but on ESPN if they had access to it, and you have to pay for cable, so not necessarily for free. But then everybody else was watching on a subscription service, whether it was internationally through Netflix or another provider. So you all these people paid to get 52 minutes of commercials. What the fuck?
And it's funny because that's not just a Netflix thing. I've just watched boxing 2 weeks ago on Netflix. None of this. And so it's not like it's a universal thing. And even with ESPN, it's for an unlimited.
Peacock is the same way. I'm having to try and get caught up on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and I'm sitting through commercial after commercial for a service I pay for, which is ridiculous.
But this was an incredible length. And the thing is that the commercials replaced kind of the things that you kind of expect from WrestleMania, right? So you have the segments with returning stars or little things or little vignettes or little in the ring or whatever you do. And then you have the build-up videos for the matches. And for WrestleMania, that's always been a big thing. You don't just have a hype video for the main event, you have a hype video for matches 5, 6, 7 down the card. Think of something like WrestleMania 35, right? You've got your thing for Lesnar and Rollins, you've got your thing for the freeway at the end, you've got your thing for Danielson and Kofi Kingston, you've got your thing for the Kurt Angle retirement match, etc., etc., etc. Because the thing for me is that this one felt more like a boxing show than it felt like a WrestleMania, because you used to have multiple things up and down the card that people would look forward to. It wasn't always just this one match. And the ones I can think of, a lot of people were looking forward to things in the middle of the card. This one was nah, we only care about the main event, is what it said to me. especially the first night, it was glaring. Like, we only care about this one. We don't care about anything else on these shows. You think it's going to get over 10 minutes? You're having a fucking laugh. Don't bother. And it's like, nothing else mattered but the main event. And I found that really, really jarring. But also, like, the presentational elements, I just thought, like... And I've heard, from people who went to the show who said it was, they appreciate it much more as a bigger kind of feeling inside the venue than what we did. But on TV, I'm like, looking at this going... Why on earth would I watch this and want to go to one of these shows, right? Why on earth would I think that this is something absolutely massive? Because it just looked like any other stadium show they've ever done now. It looked like SummerSlam last year. It looked like any other show. Like, you didn't see anything that said, this is WrestleMania, this feels special. And it's really jarring if you watch other things, and especially for someone like me who's never off watching some sort of sport. But you watch other things in Las Vegas, and I kept thinking about the Formula One that they do there, and I was thinking about the recent, the Rugby League, the NRL and Super League had a show there, and everything felt massive. It felt like really, really fucking cool, to be honest. Like the Rugby League one, we were watching it going, we need to go to this show. Like, look at how cool this is. Look at how this presentation, like, everything just looked huge. In the same stadium, it was in the Legion Stadium as well. And it's like, this one just didn't. I didn't feel anything that made me feel like this was a massive stadium show. This was WrestleMania. There was nothing that made you feel special. The only kind of people they had for like guest bits was for Cena was guest host, which doing his best Vince McMahon impression with his suit and his hair. And obviously, the Bianca Belair thing was very nice, but there was no like anyone else kind of coming back, pushing in. You didn't even have Stone Cold crashing a quad bike this year. There was nothing.
What you said about only the main event mattering, you can really see this if you look at like the time durations for these matches. Like night one, you had one match that went 18 minutes, other than the main event, one match that went 18 minutes, which was Gunther and Seth Rollins. And then you had Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre that went 14 minutes. Everything else was under 10, which is insane. You had both women's title matches. One was 7 minutes and one was 8 minutes. Like, that's crazy. Like, they just, they didn't give these matches any time. And night two was just as bad. You had a 15-minute ladder match, and then everything else was under 10 minutes. And I think that's like, I'm not necessarily opposed to short matches. I think shorter matches can be really valuable, especially on a long show. But I think
but these aren't long shows.
No, I was going to say every single match on this was extremely short, and it was just filled with, you're not going from like short match to long match. You're going from short match to commercial to commercial to commercial to commercial to commercial. So it just like, I think that also feels like it has to impact like viewing this as a big deal. Like, how is this any different than like a SmackDown?
Yeah, and then it reinforces the thing that only the top people matter in this company.
Right. And
there was a whole load of that. For me, I just felt it was a really frustrating viewing experience. And I just thought, like, this isn't, and this sounds very old-timey, don't it? But it's like, it isn't WrestleMania anymore. It isn't WrestleMania in that sense. It doesn't feel like the biggest thing of the year. And some of that is maybe some other things coming to fruition and you having these competition in terms of stadium shows, right? And maybe some of this is partly because, I've just seen I thought a sold out Tokyo Dome with Hiroshi Tanahashi and all that presentation and that. But that felt so much bigger than this did. And I think that feels kind of insane. But shall we talk about some of the things that happened on the show, and then we can talk about some of the business stuff?
I love that. So you go first.
Okay. So I think they only cared about the main event, so we probably start with the main event.
It works for me. The first night was Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton. This was terrible. This was so bad. Like, I watched this quite late. I didn't watch it anywhere close, so I kind of knew it was bad, but it was so much worse than I was expecting it to. And Cody Rhodes, just not good. The audience was booing him like absolutely crazy, and he could not figure out what to do to get them back on his side. And everything he did was the worst thing that he could have done. It didn't work. It was just a freaking weird setup of a match where it was like Cody was dominating to the point where he's getting booed like nuts. And then Pat McAfee came back as a referee. So the funny part about the WWE matches is that whenever the ref gets a bump, the crowd goes crazy because they know that like you're close to the end, which is such a sad indictment of like modern WWE matches that like they're into it. I'm not saying they weren't into it because they were, I'm not going to lie, but like they really get into it once that ref bump happens because they're like, oh, this is when shit's going to go down. And so the ref takes a bump. Cody and Orton go back and forth with their finisher, what moves or whatever, and somebody pins somebody and they're looking for a referee, and out comes Pat McAfee, who had been taken out in a 10-minute beatdown by Cody Rhodes at the beginning of the match, where so much time was spent getting him into a stretcher, and they all just stood there while that happened. It was the weirdest fucking thing in the world. Jelly Roll did like a splash through a table after like a really pointed head nod from Cody, which was just, again, Jelly Roll. And so McAfee's been wheeled off in a stretcher. So now he comes running out in a neck brace and a referee shirt. And Michael Cole is screaming, "Who let him out here?" And it was just so stupid because he gets in the ring and counts the pin.
Slowly.
And he slow counted it. And this is the part that fucking killed me because I'm like, wait, don't you want Randy Orton to win? What the fuck is happening? Why aren't you fast counting this or doing something? Like, who gave you referee powers? B, why does Randy Orton listening to you at all? Why is, like, I didn't understand this. Like, again, at no point was this explained. This wasn't part of the angle. None of this, right? So these slow counts. So then Randy Orton turns on Pat McAfee, gives him an RKO, rolls him off to the side. Finally, the real referee wakes up. Cody hits Orton with a crossroads, pins him, wins. Yay! Everybody boos. Then they end up with Orton waking up, hitting Cody in the face with a belt, punt kicking him in the face like 3 or 4 times, and then the show ends with Randy Orton, who lost the match, holding up the belt that he didn't win. What was the point of any of this? This was, I swear to God, like, and this is one of those things where you wonder, like, are these guys able to pivot at all? Because if I'm Cody, I'm in the middle of that match going, this is not working. Let's change it up. Let's call it differently. Let's do something differently. And because whatever they laid out didn't work. Like, did they even know what they were doing? Like, they didn't have a clear heel face dynamic. Cody was like all over him and acting like the big brute from the beginning. The whole thing just made absolutely no sense. And like, Dave gave this 3.5 stars and was like, oh, the wrestling itself was good. And it wasn't. It was just boring, like watching these guys do like their little freaking trip moves and jumps into the ropes and whatever. It was not. This was, I mean, it was terrible across all bounds. And it wasn't just because the story made no sense. These guys were also fucking lost in there.
I don't know if I want to actually try and make sense of it or not now. So what the premise originally was that, like, Cody almost goaded Orton into being, like, the 09 version of Punk, the punt in Orton that beat up the McMahon family ahead of WrestleMania 25, right? And he wanted to see, like, the darker side of Orton, because also he's been kind of flirting with the darker side. He wants to become a meaner character, someone, he's shown that with the stuff with Kevin Owens and stuff, fight fire with fire, all that sort of thing, right? Then they bring in the Pat McAfee stuff. And it's like, then all of a sudden you're throwing Cody back to being a white meat babyface. Okay. Then you realise that Orton's not being booed, because he won't be, because he's doing a nostalgia act where these things off TikTok, like we talked about last time. So then you have this thing about he might have a back injury. So then you do the Pat McAfee thing, you take him out at the start of the match. So you've just taken out, like, the biggest thing that's going to get the heel heat against Cody here, right?
Yeah. Nobody was suing Orton without McAfee there.
No, so, if you turn to stack the deck against Cody Rhodes, which tends to what we do with babyfaces, especially when they're the champion, because, you don't have that thing of them wanting to get the belt. So if you're defending, then you want to use the heels to stack up against him. Okay, you do that. So no, you take that out. So you're going to go, okay, we're going to do a one-on-one match. And we're going to play back to the story that we were originally going to tell before we threw the Pat McAfee thing in there. Okay, fine, right? So then you do it. And then you start talking about, Orton wasn't injured. He's fine. And then 5 minutes later, after he's selling the back, we're going to flip it, and Orton is injured now. So we're now using this stuff that was in the Observer that was nowhere really else, and we're throwing it out on TV. We haven't teased it. We haven't talked about it previously. We're just doing it now because that's what we're going to do. Okay. So then you have Cody working heel on that because they're obviously presuming that Orton's going to get the stronger reaction, which
he did.
Which he did, but not to anywhere near the degree I think they think he would.
Agreed. It wasn't as overwhelming. There were definitely points where people were cheering Cody. It was more cheers for Orton, but Cody did get cheered.
But they didn't switch it. Like, so you think about, like, Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega at the Tokyo Dome last year. Right. Like, Kenny went, oh, shit, okay, this is happening. Let me switch it up, right? Yeah. So he switches it up. And that's what he does. Because he's good at actually calling things in ring, and he's allowed to. You know, whether Cody has the ability to call things in ring or not in WWE is another thing entirely. But, you know, he has that instinct, and he can switch it, and he's good enough to be able to switch everything on the fly. Don't matter what we plan out, we'll change it around. So we change the psychology to match the crowd response, because that's what the real pros do, right? Yeah. And here, so we don't do that. So we continue that sort of thing. And then we need to kind of mix it up towards the end. And the whole idea is that, in a way, if Cody's showing this extra fire, then it should be that Cody's not, like, teasing heel or tweener, but you can do that as a babyface, right? That is possible. If you can get the psychology right, if you can actually get the crowd on your side, if you can lead the crowd and take them with you, you know, there's a very... It's like a month after the Page thing at Revolution, where literally he does that thing with the crowd during the match. Like, there's literally a carbon fucking copy of what you need to do, literally like a month before. It's actually embarrassing to watch this and compare to that in terms of a babyface kind of reaction and being able to lead the crowd. And I think there's an issue with Cody with that. I was watching his body language, and I was watching the Seth Rollins one, who, you know, most people think he's a natural heel. I actually think he's a much better babyface. But what he is good at is he will get that crowd on his side. Whether they care about him at the start or not, he will work for that. And he hasn't always worked in his career. You know, everyone looks at 2019 and we can all discuss the reason for that. But he has that ability to do that and to read that and to bring them along. And Cody, whether it's because he's inauthentic and that kind of comes out the longer that he's around somewhere, or whether it's just because he doesn't have that capability, just can't do it. So you never get that point where you think, right, the crowd are going to come with him. So even if he's now fighting fire with fire, they're still going to be behind him. Like we've seen with Page over like recent months, you know, over the last... That's that character. Yeah, that Hangman character that like did the buckshot on Marina Shafir and that stuff. Right. Like that's where you want to get to. If you're going to be that sort of baby face where you're going to do like, fuck it, I'll do the same thing. Like, you want to take cheap shots? I'll do the same thing. I don't give a shit. You know, like that's the fire thing. That's the stone cold thing. That's that sort of thing that you're looking for. And instead with Cody, it's like,
he doesn't.
I'm going to plan it out to do it, but I don't have that. He doesn't have it. No, he doesn't. So he can't do it. So then what happens is that you do the fire thing, and he just looks like the biggest fucking arsehole in the world.
He does.
And then you do the Pat McAfee thing, and he does the fast count, and then you do the RKO on him, which is just like, look, so, because then you're like, oh, Orton's a face now. That's what everybody in the fucking arena for. And then Cody takes advantage of it, but actually, rather than being something set up where you can go, oh, you know, like, Cody was smart there, he just comes across as an arsehole. And even funnier, do you know the funniest thing about this match is, and it's not that they've tried to tell 3 stories at once, it's not that the psychology was completely wrong, it's not even like the finish being like that where, you know, the babyface heel, whatever, he's doing the punt and everyone's cheering because it's like a callback to the thing they've been fucking waiting for. It's like, the funniest thing to me was that we stretched off Pat McAfee, right? Like it was the biggest thing in the world. And then with Cody gets punted, which used to like take people out in like ambulances. No, he just gets up and walks to the back. And I'm just like, that is the complete summary of what this is. Like, you didn't get it right from the entrance, you didn't get it right in the match, and you couldn't even get it right in the fucking post-match to close out WrestleMania, and people left in silence. Like, what were you doing? And you can blame everything you want on Ariel Manuel and that stuff. He didn't fucking book the match.
No, he didn't book the fucking match.
He didn't book the match. He didn't produce the match. He didn't lay out the match. He didn't second guess the crowd reactions. He didn't get in his head about the fucking Observer. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And Dave's talking about it being like chaos like WCW on that Saturday, and you can see it. It looks like that. Like, no one's got any fucking idea what they're doing here. And it's nearly as, it's, you know, it's not, maybe worse than last year's Cena thing. Like, with the Travis Scott thing and stuff. Like, Cody can stand there on SmackDown on Friday and he can say, you know, don't get involved. These guys don't book the match. They don't book the structure. That's 2 years in a row now where the Cody main event, like the structure of the match has been all fucking over the place. Why can't you get this right? What is it about this guy? And you obviously don't trust this guy, right? Because you're giving Roman Reigns free will over on the next night to do whatever the fuck he wants, and to plan out the match exactly how he wants, and to build how he wants. So you have immense trust in that guy, and all this QB1 nonsense, you don't fucking trust this guy at all. Because that's free, he's right in that regard. That's 3 WrestleMania in a row now where they've gone, you're not a draw, you're not the guy for this spot for the main event, we don't want you, or we're going to fuck you over. And it's like, is it just them? Or is it this guy? Is he actually capable of doing what they ask of him in these spots?
Listen, as somebody, you want to have some sympathy with Cody because it's WWE and they suck and whatever. But I also watched Cody in AEW, and when the crowd, this is a guy who thought, I'm going to do a feud with a half black British Olympian, or a black British Olympian, and I'm going to make that feud about how I, the white man from the United States, have ended racism.
Well, yeah, because that's the authenticity to him, isn't it? It's
right.
Like, everything's about me. That's fine. And I get, like, you're trying to tell this story of you becoming this more kind of fiery character, but it's not you. You don't have the capability for it.
No.
And it's really fucking obvious. Like, in situations like this, you don't have the capability to tell those stories. He's one-dimensional, freestyle general, he only knows one way, and it's very nice that you want to be this deeper character, you want to do things, but that's not fucking you. You are like John Cena, right? John Cena, probably actually more capability than this, to be honest, but you are robot, you do what you're told, you do your stupid, shitty fucking vodka commercials or whatever it is. But no, you are that person. And you know what? That's okay. That you can be one-dimensional, right? You can be that character. You can be the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes and your big entrances with your theme and all your different entrance gear and whatever. Yeah, you can be that person. Well, be that fucking person. Stop trying to be something you aren't, because it doesn't work. And it didn't work here. And maybe it's just that they're fighting heels. And look, WWE
he can't pivot.
No, he can't pivot. He doesn't have that ability. He doesn't have that in-ring ability to pivot in that way. And that wasn't just present in WWE. That was present in AEW. It was also present before in AEW as well. You can see it in New Japan. You can see it in Ring of Honor. It goes back a long way. But I do feel for him in some aspects, because they have fucked him up over the last year.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They fucked him up. They told you exactly what they think of him when they stuck him in the crowd in the Netflix debut.
Yes. Yes.
They told you then. They told you again when The Rock came back and did the whole thing, and then they had Cena turn and whatever they did at the end of WrestleMania. They told you even more when at the end of SummerSlam, Cena's ruffling his head like, that's a good boy. And then like the next night talking about being the only real world champion, the last real world champion. What the fuck does that say about Cody Rhodes? Yeah. All this QB1 nonsense is absolute fucking bollocks. They are telling you over and over and over again that as much as this guy is, under Paul Levesque is presenting, he can say, I'm the top guy, I'm this guy. And look, he has an argument for it. Like, look at some of the attendance numbers in recent years. Look at all the things that, the WrestleMania especially. Look at some of the TV rating. He has an argument for that. But when it comes down to it, the people at the very top there don't see that. And they are telling you over and over and over again. And he's having to fight that. And, like, there's an element of... And I thought about this when I saw his promo on Friday. It's like there's an element that he probably needs that, because if you look at when he's been the most successful in that company, it's when he's been fighting something, right? So like the year when he won was when The Rock stepped in. That's when the kind of thing got behind him. But I don't think there's that same groundswell, that same feeling now. And some of that will be having, being exposed to him for so long, quite frankly. But it's like... He may need that, but he needs more than that. And I just think, like, you're going to keep hitting the wall with this guy unless you change something up consistently.
He's been there for 4 years now. Mm-hmm. And yes, he was out with the pectoral injury, but that was early enough that people were excited still to see him when he came back. It was like a big thing. I think he doesn't want to turn heel, or they don't want to turn him heel. I mean, I have to think is more on him, because he didn't seem to want to do it when he was in the AEW either. Like, you're going to have to do something different with him, because again, they don't have that many top guys. They don't have, he's going to feud with the same people. So, like, where are we going? You know what I mean? Like, it's, I don't know. It was a mess. The match was a mess. The whole fucking thing is a mess. It just didn't work at all. It didn't work at all. The
thing that I can't get, it's like anyone that just says, it was well worked, but the psychology was bad. Well, it's not well worked.
It wasn't well worked.
If the psychology is bad, then it's not well worked. Like, you've not worked the match. It's like I don't care, like, if you do a smooth move. Like, I don't care if we sit there in 10-minute rest holds because it's a Randy Orton, and if you want the Randy Orton of 09, you need to remember what Randy Orton 09 matches were really like. But it's like, that's not well worked to me. I don't see anything where you can't pivot and react to what's happening around you as well worked.
If this is the guy who, like, Flair Thez and all those awards. And like, this is, he's the number one dude in the main event of WrestleMania for the third year in a row. He should be able to modify what's going on to match the responses that he's getting. And he couldn't do it for whatever reason. And, it sucked. It just sucked as a match. It sucked as a Mania match. It just sucked. It was not good.
Sometimes people can escape bad builds, and this one just tipped everything off on a nice tee. The night 2 main event, which was much better match, was the
much
CM
better
Punk,
match. I agree.
CM Punk Roman Reigns main event. You can absolutely see the difference between how Roman's treated, how Cody's treated. The freedom that Reigns had, time-wise in this match, but also in terms of, they built everything themselves. They weren't interfered with. There was no other stupidity or people added. They didn't feel the need to throw 25% off tickets on TV for the Sunday night, even though, numbers are still way down on last year. And the finish actually played into the build. So they told you in the build, Roman told you that CM Punk was old. And the finish is, he can...
he's old.
He's old. He can't get him back up. He can't do it one more time, when it really matters. It's kind of a funny finish, isn't it, when you consider? But no, it maybe missed a peak a little bit.
But by like a solid 10 minutes. Yeah, it was a good match, right? Okay, and I am fascinated by this that Roman Reigns can work CM Punk better than somebody like Gunther can, right? Like And Cena, to be honest, like of these matches that I've watched, this one was far and away Punk's best match that I've seen in WWE. I do think that they missed the finish. I think that it went too long by like 10-ish minutes. And I think like you get to go to the fucking crowd like one time. Like you can't go to the crowd, come back to the ring and then go to the crowd again and then come back to the ring and then go to the crowd again. Like you can do that one time and then we have to come back and we're done. Like that was a little bit insane. And I appreciated that there was not as much mid-match talking as I sort of expected there to be when I kind of went into it. A little bit, but not as bad as it was. And the beginning, I appreciated that they looked like they were trying to beat the shit out of each other. So, positive on that account. But, I mean, again, it was not like, I don't know. I still wasn't like, this is the great. If this is the greatest WrestleMania match there's ever been, that's kind of a sad indictment on the quality of WrestleMania matches. I'm just going to say, like, this was a well-worked, decent match. Like, pretty solid 4 stars from me if I star rated things, which I don't.
The thing about WrestleMania main events is there haven't really been that many great ones.
No.
So that's probably why you'll hear like people saying that. Is it on the level of some of the really? No, but it's still, it was very well worked. I did like Dave Meltzer summed it up as like, Punk worked really, really hard, and for Roman it was just another WrestleMania. I just laughed really hard. But it was, for like CM Punk, this is the thing that he's always wanted his entire career. He threw a fit over the WrestleMania 29 booking where he ended up in the Taker match, and it was John Cena Rock 2 twice in a lifetime.
He was definitely faster, and he certainly looked like someone who was extra caffeinated that day. That he was not, he did eventually blow up, but he didn't blow up like as quickly as he had in the other matches of his I've seen.
No, and look, Roman can work. There's this thing about Roman because of all the years and the Undertaker main event, the Brock Lesnar main event, WrestleMania 34, which I'd rather forget that was ever saw in front of my eyes. But he can work, and when he wants to, and by all accounts, he's motivated now, and he thinks he can turn their business around. It's so funny, everyone denies like they're thinking about business, and it's like they're all talking about it, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, so the one thing in the Observer did, I don't know if you read it, but I thought it was quite funny, so I'm going to read it. Was Dave wrote that Reigns was always to come out as champion since long-term plans had been made for him in that position, which include a title feud with Gunther. It was possible and apparently talked about that Punk could beat Reigns and then lose the title at Backlash, so they'd be even when it was over, but Reigns would end up as champion as a way to protect Punk's position. But the decision was made in the end for Reigns to win here, and I was like, one, that's very funny, because I can think of a very similar scenario to that, and... Punk on the other end, and 2, it was like you could just see it like, yeah, I could do this, I could do that, and Roman's just like, no, I win.
Nah.
Yeah, we could do that, but no, I just win.
No, I'm all set, thanks. I'm good. I'm just gonna beat him here, thanks. I'm just gonna beat him here, thanks.
Just gonna beat him here, thanks.
I'm just gonna beat him here. We're all set, thanks.
Yep.
We can move on.
Like, we need to be one-on-one for a bigger... No, we don't.
No, we're all set. We're good.
And then, yeah, so as for rest of the shows, the first night, yeah, there's really nothing else to talk about. And I think, like, even the best in-ring match was the Gunther and Seth Rollins one, and that wasn't really anything close to where Seth can get to. Probably less than what you'd expected out of them too. The funniest bit about it was the Bron Breakker rang down, who was Seth's secondary opponent, I guess. Like,
what a
opponent.
Terrible spear that was.
The first one looked okay. The second one, when he rang all the way down, and Seth was like, "I'm not fucking taking that," and he just kind of
just sidestepped him,
and he just goes over in a forward roll, and then they replayed it. I'm like, "What the fuck are you replaying?
Don't replay that. It looked like shit. What are you doing?"
He looked like he just tripped over his own feet and did a barrel roll. Like, please don't replay it. But like, they did. Yeah, I thought the women's title match was a joke. Liv Morgan's entrance was pretty much longer than the match. God, that song is like, she's doing like Christina Aguilera like 1999 and we're in 2026. Topical. Yeah. Topical. But then again, they also used Aerosmith's Back in the Saddle for this show, and that song is 35 years old? I don't fucking know. They're way 30 years old? 30 years old. But yeah, like, that was a bit weird. And then
Road Dogg was clearly the one with his finger on the pulse of today's youth movement.
Yeah, you got rid of
Without
him.
him.
No Weekend this year. They fall out with them as well, not just Bad Bunny. Who knows? Yeah, the Page comeback and the tag match thing was just like, meh. Like, they cheered, they liked her. The song is still good, to be fair. But, like, there was nothing to be said there. AJ Lee and Becky Lynch is probably one of the worst matches I've ever seen in front of my eyes on a WrestleMania, it felt like. AJ Lee, yeah, good for you for getting the money to come back. What
go
are you
away
doing
again.
Like, you were never good in the first place. Yeah, like, go away again. Like, Becky Lynch, there were times where, like, I felt so, like, and Becky isn't, like, as good in the ring as she once was, right? And she was never, like, Mercedes or Bailey level, right? But fucking hell, like, there was times where I just, like, watching her, and she's like, I'm like, you've worked with this person like 3-4 times and you're still having to set up for them and go and correct them and move around. I was like, oh my god, what the fuck am I watching? And the funniest thing about that was like, Becky Lynch, big heel, wins and they all cheer, and she spent most of the match setting up a match with the referee. So Becky versus referee, much more important than Becky versus AJ Lee, so whatever. That was kind of funny. Yeah, pre-show matches, nothing really to talk about. iShow Speed's got his little flip-off, off the thing, so you can do it onto the table, so they had their viral spot. Entrance for Vision looked so fucking cheap, but it was unreal. And that was pretty much like for night one, and you just watched it and thought, what the fuck have I just wasted 3.5 hours of my life on? Which is not the reason, Ray, that you should feel about Mania, and especially with the prices that people paid. And it's, some people, they go live, they see the Sunday thing, and lasting memories is always what you still last, right? So you go, oh, it doesn't really matter that day one was shit because day two was that. But you want to sell 2-day events, you got a 2-day SummerSlam to sell. It goes on sale like this couple of weeks, You want 2-day WrestleManias in future, if that's what you think is going to be kind of better for your brand, because you want to encourage people to spend more nights in hotels and get paid big side fees, then you can't do this. It's crazy. Like Sunday, we'll talk about Lesnar Femi in a second, but I thought the ladder match was very good for WWE standard ladder matches. I thought it was very good, and it's clear that they're doing what they can with Penta. Gave him a big thing there. He has come out well out of that kind of move. Ray Phoenix is completely buried beneath the earth. He's that guy in that meme, isn't he? Like when they're swimming and he's like on the seafloor. Sorry, Phoenix. Whereas Penta is he's done all right there. He works for him. But yeah, good match. Very good. Jade and Rhea for what it was. I actually thought that was probably about long enough for Jade's capabilities. Rhea, what's true, isn't it? Rhea looks like, she's the woman they care about, and you can see it. And that's that. Sky was reduced down to mascot for that one, after being in, probably the best received match last year. Complete mascot.
Not enough room on the card.
No, we can't get her on a card, her and Oscar on the card, We needed 10 more Hulk Hogan commercials on Netflix. That's it. That's the choices that you make. And other than that, Trick and Sammy, pointless. You gave you gave him the entrance and you gave him the win. You didn't give him anything to make anyone feel any differently about him in ring. And you did the Sammy turn after, so at least you did it. But just felt like the consequences that you expected weren't there, and it just didn't feel like really much anything. And other than that, I don't think there's anything else really to talk about. So obviously they opened that night with Brock Lesnar and Obafemi. And this was very much your kind of traditional Brock Lesnar match where he's going to lose because he has a type of match where it will be short. And he will take, and they'll span the finishes and that sort of thing. But, for Obafemi, for what they were looking to do with him, it probably works out quite well. I think, Obafemi, I think he's a very cool-looking guy because he looks like, when he's in his wrestling gear, like, if you imagine, like, a character on, like, Tekken or Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat was going to beat the shit out of you, like, in a really cool way, that's what he looks like. So, they have something in him. But it's how you do everything afterwards, They thought it was the same last year with people talking about Jacob Fatu in exactly the same way, right?
Yeah.
So it's and the thing is that the only thing that was kind of a little bit disappointing about that was that, like, then they do the Lesnar boot thing, right? And it's like the focus comes off him because the focus is all on Lesnar.
Is Lesnar retiring?
Is Lesnar retiring. And, okay, they opened Raw with him and he came out and he did the This Is My Yard version promo, 4 words, go back. But it was like, that's the thing, isn't it? It never can be fully focused on the young guy that's the victor. It has to be split with then, or even more so, like, what's Lesnar doing? And I'm not that surprised they did that thing with Lesnar, because one of my big questions going into it was, what would be their headline for the weekend, Like, what have they got to sell to ESPN or to every other news writer? And I thought, you can't really see anything obvious here, right? You can't see anything coming down the track that you think, oh, okay, this will be the big headline coming out of this show. Because Roman winning the belt is not a big news headline. It's just back to standard proceedings, right? And everything that happened with McAfee, Orton, going Jelly Roll, and come on now. Like, I don't know what you would write about that. Like, where would you start? But there's nothing in that, and there's nothing in anything else, So, in fact, most of the headlines in the week prior and around the show were around the poor attendance rather than, lower attendance than last year and struggling to sell tickets. So I thought they'll need a headline. So they've gone with this. And I thought there was a really giveaway line the next night with the Paul Heyman stuff. And he was doing his crying and, he can act for fun. But he said, I need someone to take this man from the now, because he was talking about the promo video that showed him, and put him into the forever, right? And that's just, that's a match setup as far as I fucking from throw it. But I think it's interesting because I think they were always going to do this, right? They had the Thank You Brock shirts pretty much ready, and they were straight out the next day. And you think about the timing. So, Minnesota SummerSlam, his home state, never wrestled, singles match there, okay. Makes all the sense in the world. That one's such a tough sell. SummerSlam in Minnesota for 2 nights.
Yeah, 2 nights.
So they won that there. Okay, I get that. And it's like, you're going to do it, so you're going to babyface him now, and you're going to do that, and that event is like a month after the Janelle Grant arbitration hearings, right?
Right.
And this came just like 2 weeks after the affidavit that was put out. Obviously brought up more around Brock Lesnar. Obviously that got barely any coverage outside of ESPN with the journalist Andreas Hale, who then got his credentials removed. I don't believe for 1 second that it's to do with the letter grading. I believe it's to do with that. It's kind of interesting that happened, right? Like straight after the bat. But he's the only person that's covered it out of the mainstream press, and then that happens. So, and it just so happens to be when their corporate side at ESPN, their TV side, wanted Lesnar in the opener to do to look at numbers and the start. And it's so like, it all adds up in that way. So they're going to babyface him just as them kind of hearings take place, but they don't care now because it's like, he's going to be the babyface. And that's their public face of him. And that's where they are now because they're going to motor on, And I think when you go to the Hall of Fame and they have Thank You Vince chants and stuff, That's it. It's into them. It's in the past. The story's done. It's over.
They're good. They don't have to worry about it. None of their advertisers have given them any consequences for any of this. The fans haven't given them any consequences for any of this. So they're all set. Just keep on going and sell Brock's retirement and make a bunch of money from Minnesota for Minneapolis for the site fees that they'll get and whatever else, and that'll be it. Congrats.
Yep. So yeah,
way to weather the storm.
Have you got anything else on the actual show itself before we talk about some numbers?
I don't think so.
No.
No. I think there wasn't really, again, outside the main events, there's just not a lot to say.
Yeah, and that's how they presented it. And, I think about this all the time because, I've just said quite like, you don't have always great matches on WrestleMania, right?
Right.
People don't always even remember like great matches. They remember, they remember moments, they remember cool things, they remember this person coming back or that person. Or like, it doesn't always be like the great matches that people remember about this show because there's the way that it's presented and like the joke about the pageantry but that was a significant part of it.
Yeah.
And this was so lacking of that it kind of it took me back because I just thought you want people to go to these shows, right? You want these site fees. So, Brandon Thurston reported that they paid $6 million for Mania to come back. $5 million last year, up to $6 million to get it away from New Orleans. Like, these are the things that you want to generate. And yet, like, you're presenting it like it's standard run-of-the-mill. Like, why would I want to go? And I just can't get it out of my brain because, when you talk about their tickets, and we might as well just jump straight onto that because I've just done my own transition without even realising, really. But when you look at it like this year, right? So they announced 50,816 first night and they announced 55,255 second night. WrestleTix had them at 50,018 for Saturday and 52,011 for Sunday. So down 16.7% for the first night and 15.3% for the second night. What was really interesting is from all reports and practices, the big thing was loss of kind of international visitors. And, you could see this throughout the week. There was even Chris, our friend Chris, who's running up his Mania Week independent stuff for the newsletter at the moment. Like, he said he barely spoke to anybody with like a British voice, and that was kind of like so different from last year. Like Australians, that sort of thing, Europeans, South Americans, and some of that may be political, right? And some of it might be financial, and that's obviously not helped by Trump running around Australia for moose and everything else. But it's like, it's an interesting question because you can see that as well. So when you look at the Raw and the SmackDown numbers, SmackDown being down from 17,000 to 9,500, that's crazy, isn't it? The Hall of Fame being down and doing 75% off tickets the morning of. So, if you wanted to go watch the induction of Stephanie McMahon as the head thing, 75% off on a Friday morning. And then Raw even going from 17,000 to 13,000. To me, that always says, like, that's a lack of international visitors. Because if you go to a WrestleMania, what you'll find out in general over the past, 2 decades is people who come in from the US, they can see Raw in their own towns, that sort of thing. They tend to fly in for WrestleMania, fly back out. Yep. That's always been the way, right? Whereas people that come in for from the rest of the world, they will tend to be the people that want to go to Raw, want to go to SmackDown, want to feel part of everything. And it's like, if they're not there, then you'll see those numbers straight away in those numbers, and you can. So it's an interesting thing when you're looking at site fees because it's what I go back to. It's like, I bang on and on about like destination shows, but you are trying to be a destination show and you need to be a destination show for international travellers because they're most likely to spend more money and they're more likely to spend more nights. And that's what you want from the site fees. And that's what your business is inherently developed on if you're TKO. And even more so when you look at what's going on with Saudi Arabia and the things that they're pulling out of, your live event business could take potentially a hit. I don't think anything's going to change. They only got a 3-year deal, but nothing's going to change until they've had WrestleMania, right? Let's be honest. Right. They'll have WrestleMania, and then we'll see what happens. But they're pulling out things left, right, and centre, and the Saudi investment funds looking at the game, trying to raise more capital here and everywhere. But, the sports washing thing is mainly being completed. People don't bat an eyelid now when things are held in Saudi Arabia, so why do you need to be there? But if you take that out of their kind of live event kind of business for TKO, then what you're left with is them pursuing this kind of live event by site fee strategy. And that is reliant on people fucking going.
Yep.
And that's like, and yeah, okay, Vegas has slowed down. It's funny because everything's about, I know that you had like TV conference in town and talking about expensive hotel rooms, but there were absolutely plenty of deals available, especially in the UK, for this current week, this previous week, in Las Vegas. It's not like it's a case of like there was nothing available of decent price. Like there was plenty available. But you've not done enough to make that a destination this year to international fans. That's what it sells you. And what that means going forward is going to be really interesting, especially now, as things are, they're coming out the other side of their peak. And they were wise, they booked all these venues and they've got all these site fees while they were hot, and fair play, that's what you should do in a way.
Yep.
But it's, again, they need continuous growth, and that means increased pressure now. And we'll see how that kind of goes with there. TV numbers were interesting as well. So Netflix, they missed the top 10, which means they were lower than 2.4 million, which is what they did the Saturday last year. We'll get the Sunday this week, because for most kind of countries that have Netflix WWE viewership, it was Monday, like it was here. So we'll get that there. But their ESPN numbers were kind of a real big surprise, I guess. So ESPN paid $1.6 billion over 5 years. With a B. 325 million a year, right? That's how much they paid for these PLEs. And I thought there was something that Dave wrote in the Observer that I thought was pretty interesting on that, was around a commercial time, where he noted that, he speculated that, is this ESPN's call in a way to make up money for this deal, because they're not gaining new subscriptions through the ESPN Unlimited app at the rate that they wanted to. And that kind of makes you think, like, how bad is this, right?
Yeah.
That you need to have that amount of adverts to make up for these sort of things. And I know a lot of people have brought up the Comcast numbers for Q1, Q1 where they've gained 2 million viewers for Comcast, for Peacock, essentially. And I'm kind of like, I wait to see, because they gained very heavily in Q4, obviously with the NBA going to Peacock, and we're now into later stages. But also they had the Olympics in Q1, the Winter Olympics, and that always is a big pickup for Peacock. But you can say that with the addition of the NBA and removal of WWE, like, they've gained massively, even if it means financially they paid out far more. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's like, and obviously this really hasn't made any difference. And then, so the 2 nights that they did, ESPN2 number on the Saturday. Where are we? I've lost everything. There we go. They did 1.6 million with 0.62 in 1849 on ESPN2. That, matching their press release, would actually be the highest number for ESPN2 show this year. And on Sunday, with the ladder match showing Brock Lesnar over Femi, they did 1.8 million and a 0.65 in the demo. I love that. WWE claimed it was the biggest thing on ESPN all weekend, but they lied. Mm-hmm. Maybe they used their fast nationals. Yeah. That's what they do, right? So it was actually incorrect. The Philadelphia Flyers Pittsburgh Penguins game did 2.14 million, 0.66 in the demo, and the Minnesota Wild Dallas Stars game did 1.9 million and 0.61 in the demo. The Boston Bruins Sabres game was actually shown on ESPN and the local networks, and that likely had a bigger total audience as well. So it's like, okay, they paid 1.6 billion, 325 million a year, and they couldn't get more than a hockey game for a contract that is $300 million a year, where they had a Stadium Series game like early in the year, did 2.1 million. These games are doing 2 million. It's like, that's hockey, and the whole contract for all the regular season games, postseason games that they get, Stadium Series, is less per year than what you've paid for WWE. And this is WrestleMania. This is the Super Bowl of wrestling. This is on a big event. And you're on ESPN, where you've got college football doing, 17 million for, college final games. And you've got college basketball, averaging 1.6 million on Monday nights on regular season. Like, ESPN, they average... Did you see this? I read the stats, so I went through their press releases, right? Because I thought, I want to see what they do press releases for, because they didn't do a press release for WWE. WWE did their own.
Yep.
But ESPN didn't do one. I thought, well, that's really strange, isn't it? Because this is the biggest WWE event of the year, and they've spent a fucking fortune on this, and they want it for their ESPN Unlimited app, and they've talked about the demos that they want, which are the young demos and the female demo, and they thought that they could get that from WWE, and I thought... They did one for the Australian Open, and that was literally talking about these demos. So, you'd expect one, right? And there isn't one. So then I thought, well, what are all the things that ESPN have done press releases for that are on their website? And their website goes back to October 22nd. And then I figured out, right, that, we've received some comments lately that have asked us to be more journalist, right? And less...
yes.
Yeah.
Less partisan.
Less partisan and that sort of thing. So I thought, well, how can I present this data in a way that would do that? And then I watched the reviews that posted of WrestleMania, and I saw John Pollock doing Triple H impressions, and then I thought, fuck this. Oh, I can
Only Cody knows. Jessica Carr doesn't know. Only Cody knows.
There's Danhausen one as well. It's like... But no, look, if John Pollock, serious journalist, couldn't do that, then I can do stupid shit as well, right? So I thought I'd present to you the amount of things that have had press releases for WWE, for ESPN, that strangely we haven't seen for WWE. Okay. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done on this podcast, and I don't care anymore, so.
We've done some stupid fucking things on this podcast, though.
I know, right? This is like the only good thing I've ever stolen from Adam Copeland, by the way. They've had 5 for men's college ball, 3 for the women on the floor, 7 up for college football, even 2 for volleyball, 16 for the NHL, 10 for the NFL, 3 for that Lando guy, and 1 for Rory McIlroy. No press release for Mania. They paid 1.6 billion, couldn't get 2 million. NBA coming in with a 1 for Rockers being great, 3 for baseball friendly games, 2 for Gotham DC Pay, 1 for athletes doing their splits, another 1 for making big hits, flashy lights for the women's court draft, 1 for the studios having a laugh, but not 1 for Brock Lesnar. Super Bowl of wrestling wasn't worth a presser. Company released its own version. Made up their own numbers for the competition. That's it.
2 thumbs way the fuck up. Come on, that was awesome. I loved it. Yeah, but they didn't have a goddamn press release for fucking WrestleMania. Like, that tells you as much as you want about the relationship between these companies, right? Or the level that ESPN is happy with what they're getting. If they're not even putting out a fucking press release, and Rory McIlroy got one, for Christ's sakes. I mean, I realize he's
leave Rory alone. He won the Masters.
I realize he's important in golf.
He got a green jacket. Yeah, he's like...
Okay, I have a green jacket, all right? So... I might wear it this week. I'm going to a conference.
Lando Norris got 3. Like, volleyball got 2. Volleyball got 2, and WrestleMania got none. And, like, when you look through the list, it gets more embarrassing as you go. I think, like, hockey's just a crazy number. But, no, no press release, no nothing. They couldn't have done any more coverage, into the point where, like, people like Andrew Marchand and other journalists were complaining about the amount of WrestleMania coverage. Like, the sports fans who watch ESPN, who think it's a fake sport, fucking hated the fact that
there was a lot of complaints
everywhere.
On the ESPN
it's crazy,
Reddit.
Right? Like, they fucking hated it.
There was not happiness.
And, so in terms of this relationship, it's crazy. It's crazy that, like, they did well to get the ESPN deal. And then you're putting up these numbers, like, and then they just are saying nothing. And you can say what you want about it, but that's the reality. And, their next show is, begins at 6 p.m. Eastern, because, so it doesn't clash with the UFC. But I do wonder what happens to these shows once we get to, like, football season again, how many of these shows do we see having kind of 1 hour shows on ESPN? Because, like, it's crazy to do less than the primetime average to me.
Yeah.
For ESPN. Like, and maybe it says something that there's a finite amount of wrestling fans who watch wrestling on TV, but it's like, this is less than a Saturday Night's Main Event with John Cena and R-Truth, in viewership. And you can say, like, it's on ESPN, but that was on fucking Peacock as well, and people were used to watching things on Peacock by then. So it's like, how do you do less than that? I don't get it. I do get it in a way, because, like, I don't know, I just don't think that it's as big as we maybe think it is in terms of that universal appeal. And I think the Netflix stuff has probably really shown that in the last few years. We've always asked the question, like, if this is available to everyone in an easy way, and most people have access to Netflix these days, especially in the younger demos, would, millions and millions of people watch it? And the answer is no.
No.
The answer is no. So, and WWE capped off their week. Of course they did.
Yes.
After, literally announcing TKO, literally announcing the Mark Shapiro and Ari Emanuel and Nick Khan salaries by firing lots of people. And I like that the reports all have to say departures, because what they do now, and you notice this is quite a clever little trick, is they mix in maybe like one contract release, like end of contract, or anything like that. So then they have to get people to report departures, right? So we can't use firings anymore. We can't say they were released from their contracts, because there might be one or two of them who are now out of contract.
Right.
So, it's a kinder, gentler TKO and a kinder, gentler WWE. Yeah, so we can't say they're departures, but they're not. They fucking fired them.
We lost, so let's see, WWE got rid of Nikki Cross, Alba Fire,
which is
Zoe
Kaylee
Stark,
Ray in normal
Kaylee
line.
Ray,
Yep.
Zoe Stark, Joe Gacy, Bo Dallas, who's also known as Uncle Howdy, Andre Chase of Chase U, Dexter Loomis, Eric Rowan, Dante Chen, Kairi Sane, Apollo Crews, Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley, a.k.a. Motor City Machine Guns, Santos Escobar, Tyler DuPont. Now, these are a lot of the names from Evolve and, like, the training system. Tyson DuPont, Tyreek Igwe, Chris Island, Tyra May Steele, Serena Linton, Trill London.
Who picks these fucking names?
I don't fucking know. Malik Blade and Luca Crucifino.
Malik Blade is straight out of Mortal Kombat, mate.
It's not good.
That's a Mortal Kombat character. And then
my favorite release of the weekend was the Aleister Black Zelina Vega release, which I don't want people to lose their job, and I'm not going to make fun of people losing their job, but this was also very funny to me. I'm sorry. Like, okay. Oh, God.
Right, let's preface it over, it sucks to lose your job. It sucks to lose your job in this economy, especially.
Yep.
Some of these people, like Zoe Stark's just been cleared to return from injury.
Yep.
Santos Escobar was re-signed to stop him from going elsewhere.
Yep.
Tore his tricep and now is being fired. It sucks. But yeah, if there's anything that's slightly funny or ironic or kind of illustrative of lots of different things, it would be the Aleister Black one.
Like, dude, this is the stuff that kills me about this stuff, right? And, like, I say this about, like, fucking I'm going to say this about fucking Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll, because we had to listen to people this week talk about how, Pat McAfee, he took himself out of the angle. They're not doing that Backlash tag anymore because Pat McAfee respects the business, and he didn't like that the fans were mad at him. Do you think TKO gives a flying fuck about you, Pat McAfee? They will roll up your fucking carcass and step on it when they get on the fucking private plane that takes them to the next location that is going to give them a fucking site fee where they can milk money out of a municipality. They don't give a flying fuck about you, and they sure as shit don't give a flying fuck about the business, okay? And this is where, like, somebody like Aleister Black, like, dude, they fired
Black.
you. Whatever. Aleister, they fired you once before, asshole. They fucking walked you out in the middle of a pandemic. They fired your fucking wife, okay, and then brought her back. You went to you kissed ass on this company, right? You had to go back. You went back. They did jack shit with him. He was in a fucking feud with Damian Priest for months that went nowhere, and then they released his ass, okay? So, like, this is the thing where it's like, you almost feel this way about any wrestler. Like, stop being this devoted to the companies you work for, okay? Because, like, at the end of the day, it's a job. And they're not going to fucking, like, and especially WWE, like, you know, at least AEW is going to probably keep you for the length of your contract unless you're fucking begging to be let out the door. WWE isn't even going to do that, okay? So, like, the fact that this guy was begging to go back to WWE and then they cut his ass and his wife's ass, just, I can't. I think it's just, you know what I mean? Like, dude, what'd you do? You basically, you slammed a couple doors in your face, because I don't think there's any chance in hell that he goes back to AEW. And I'm
because of right, genuinely.
Like, people who want him back, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I didn't even want Andrade back, and he's done a pretty damn good job. I was wrong about that one so far, and I'm very happy that I was. Like, but you watched how many years of Malachi Black fucking matches we had to watch that were just spooky and pointless, and he never lost, so they couldn't put him in a match with anybody else. Nothing happened. Like, Brody woofed a few times, and everybody got into that. Like, this is like the people trying to tell me that fucking Buddy Matthews is a good wrestler. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is like, spooky is not a thing. We just being spooky cannot be a thing you do. I don't know. Like I said, I feel bad that anybody lost their job. I don't want this person to lose their job. I hope they land on their feet and that they end up with a job somewhere. Hopefully not in a promotion I watch, because Jesus fucking Christ. But, like, you can't do all this shit and then not find some schadenfreude in the fact that the guy, like, basically redacted and then got sent his walking papers. Like, come on.
He's pretty different from Andrade, because Andrade would just put anyone over. He had no issues with that. Right. Like, you know, even Cody in a burning table. Like, there was never an issue with that. His was more complicated. Obviously, there was stuff with his marriage at the time as well, in terms of why he wanted to go back there. I know there's something bad about Aleister Black there.
Wow.
Wow.
We're mean today.
Yes. No, the thing with Black is that story goes back to when Triple H first took over in 2022, and he did legitimately try to get out of his contract. And, you know, they told him, okay, you can leave, but you can wrestle on the independents. Like,
yeah, you can't go back to WWE.
Yeah. And all of a sudden he didn't. And, you know, like, you've seen, there are AEW people on social media who have made it very fucking clear that they want him back. Yeah. And quite funnily, a lot of them were on Collision when Punk's Collision went through, because people in that locker room fucking hated him, okay? And we had this from even people like the Punk camp at the time, because, spoiler, we talked to far more people than you think. But it was like, yeah, people in the Punk, they were like, it's not just the not losing, and the height of that for me will always be that fucking cage match that they did with the House of Black and FTR thing, when like, we can't, we have to climb over the
Christ almighty. Talk about being a mark for yourself. Like, you did all of that to not lose, and what did they do for you? Same shit with fucking Miro. You did all of that to not lose, and what did it get you? Jack and shit. Yep. Okay? So, like, maybe you need to think about what protecting yourself in this business actually means and get your head out of your fucking ass. Okay? It's not about whether or not you take a fucking pin, because there's people who've taken pin after pin after pin after pin in AEW who are in a way better position than you are, fired from the WWE for the second time.
Yeah, and obviously it won't be Paul Levesque's fault, because he's always loved him and he always wanted to push him, and, you know, and there's a report with Mike Johnson that you were going to be the secret guy for Randy Orton, and even like Dave and Wade have both refuted that. So, maybe you weren't the guy on the end of the phone, maybe you were just there to carry on Cross's booking, and now, like, they don't need you in that spot either, just like they didn't need him. But no, like, yeah, he was not liked even by, you know, the Collision roster, if you consider the Island Misfits at that time in 2023. Like, he was the one they didn't want there. He was the one that allegedly didn't turn up to work, and then when CM Punk cut the promo about, you know, the one that was blamed that people thought it was about the Elite, when he said, oh, you know, people don't come to work and stuff. And then people in the Punk camp were pretty quick to run up and go, no, that's about Black, right? So it's like, yeah, and there's many other stories. Like, I've heard I had tons and tons at the time. I've still got probably most of them, actually. There would be a riot if he went back there. This is not an Andrade situation, guys. Like, people fucking hate that guy. They don't want to work with him again. That's like, and that's all parts of locker room. Like, it's not like one section or whatever. It's just they don't like that guy. And yeah, it's much more than just about not wanting to lose. But that doesn't fucking help. But yeah, you go back, you do your spooky shit, like, no one cares, and now you're here. And that's the thing. Like, if you want to go back there, you know, and you're not in that top 1%, because this is the reality now, right? And this is the same thing with a lot of these people. And it doesn't matter whether you were a Triple H project, like the Wyatt Six stuff. You know, remember, it got all, like, its big sparkly kind of, you know, reception when it launched and that sort of thing. Yep. And, like, it legitimately did, like, a couple of crazy ratings when they were doing all the QR codes and stuff. And they had, like, a huge thing for, like, Brooklyn. They did, like, yeah, it did great business in terms of lead up, and then there was fuck all follow up. There's a theme here with Triple H booking, isn't there? It's funny that. It's maybe not all TKO, but there's a follow up. Yeah, in fact, that was the phone they had the fucking Infinity Gauntlet photo, and it was like all these people that he brought really back, funny. And all was left is like Johnny Gargano, and we were like, please don't pick up the phone, Johnny. Well, some of us are. Sorry, Emmy. But yeah, it's like, it's harsh, I know, but it's like yeah, like, you go back there and you have a limited window to make an impact, right? And if you can't make an impact at that very top level, if you can't break through, if you can't become something they can rely on, these people that Triple H talks about, which is so funny when we talked about their approach to talent, and then literally he says, oh, we have no backups the next day. That couldn't have been any funny if I tried. But it was like, that is a real mentality, and you can, you know, we have a bit more of an insight into their mentality than we did have 3 months ago, and it's like, if people come in like the mid-card, you have a limited window, and then if you don't, you know, manage to break through or show your worth or any sort of versatility or anything, or they just become bored with you, quite frankly, or they run out of creative ideas for you, that's it, you're pretty much done. And it doesn't even matter if you've got a story in a show. Look at Kairi Sane, right? Yep. You are involved in a story in a show, and I know Wade Keller reported, like, they knew that they were going to cut her. They basically said creative were given a chance to wrap it up, and they just didn't, which is just, and that makes, like, not running the IR Oscar match at WrestleMania even more quite confusing. Like, what the fuck? But it's like, yeah, you have that window now. And even more so because every time they want to bring people up from NXT, from their developmental, they want to bring people in from outside, then that will cause that churn. Like, they're not loyal to anybody anymore.
No.
It's like, we saw that last summer. And it's maybe they'll do things where they bring people back, you know, temporarily, like the Truth thing because of crowd thing, and they'll play into that. And maybe they'll do things where they play into whatever. But it's like, yeah, this is how it is now. And this is what happened with UFC when TKO went in as well. So, and let's be very clear. Paul Levesque makes the decisions on who's going here. Yeah. Okay? Like, whether it's a budget thing or whatever, he's making those decisions. Stop fucking diving in front of him like Smithers and Mr. Burns. It's, like, embarrassing. And especially when it's media people, it's really, really fucking embarrassing. And it's even worse with the wrestlers, because you know some of them will be like, he really liked me, but that damn TKO. So it's a new Vince thing, isn't it? Like, that's where we're at now. But it's like, yeah, they don't care. So if you're going to go in there, and you go in there from like NXT and stuff, they'll give you probably more grace and more time. Why? Because you're fucking cheap in comparison. Yep. Than you are going to be if you're renewing a deal as, like, you know, a established mid-carder. So, you know, how much is Obafemi being paid? How much is Trick Williams being paid? You know, how much is, I don't know, Soruku, who's just coming up, being paid? Probably nowhere near. When do they go on to main roster deals? What are the main roster deals? Are they less than what you would have made as a mid-carder before? That's it. There's going to be, what you're going to end up with is actually more differentiation between the top and the bottom, because they'll keep clearing out the middle. I think that's what we're seeing with them. Yes. So there is money at the top, and there'll be money for people they want to keep at the top, and there'll be money for people they want to acquire at the top, and they want to acquire established people. I was talking about this last time, and thinks it's like I'm talking about acid. I'm really not, believe you me. Like, they will go for established people from AEW. That's what they'll look at in terms of talent recruitment at the very top. And then they'll hope that some of these people that come through from developmental, from NXT, break through into their top. And they'll keep their stagnant top as it is if they can, because they're people that, you know, can deliver the same results. And in this industry now, where you're looking at who you're selling to, you know, when you're selling pay-per-view kind of PLE, whatever, catalogs, or you're selling kind of your ratings, the stagnation is not always seen as a bad thing, as much as it tends to actually lead to kind of down tread. It's not seen as a bad thing because it's stability, right? You're selling a known product, which is why those people at the very top can continue to get paid the top money. But if you're in that middle section, like, it's dangerous. And as soon as you are not on TV, or even if you are on TV, but you're considered like replaceable, then that's it, you're done. And that's the way it is now. And I would be very, very careful unless you can get certain guarantees. And like, there's probably, 10, 15 people in the world tops that can do that. That's it. That's the reality of it. You probably got 6, 7 in AEW that would get that sort of offer, and then the people that they have at the top now in WWE, which is, you can see the top guys in the men's division, and probably Rhea Ripley. Is that the only person women's safe? I would probably say, maybe Charlotte. That would be it. I wouldn't put anybody else on the list where you'd think that they aren't vulnerable of not being able to get out of that sort of thing once they get into that mid-card range. So, yeah, that's the reality of TKO now. If you were stupid enough to go back there under the kind of impression that you were all of a sudden going to be a success because Paul Levesque loved you, then, well, there you are. Yeah, MLW need people for their invisible second show, even though they're not released the first on TV yet. Sorry, that's really fucking harsh, but
that was brutal.
It was, yeah, but for a lot of people, I have a lot of sympathy. I think that it's one of them situations where you look and think, if there was you almost wish for a third company from a talent perspective in terms of, even like if TNA was stronger and not in a relationship with WWE. Just because there are so many talented wrestlers at this point in time, and there aren't enough places to work,
No.
And that's unfortunate reality. And we don't have an independent scene. It's not like the mid-2010s where the independent scene could subsidise for that. And obviously, there's less money involved in Japan than there was then because of the state of the yen and the financial positions that the big Japanese companies find themselves in. I was going to make a Shane Hayes joke at Noah's show, but. That's harsh too. I'm in a fucking mood about it. I'm being harsh today, but hey, this is our night over 2 weeks, hey. But yeah, it's a difficult one. So you can see people that will probably turn up on independents and have a run somewhere, and maybe in smaller companies. But it's hard to see the amount of releases and the way that they go through people now and the way they go development. It's hard to see a lot of these people kind of finding places on a regular basis, and that's always sad, I always say there's only 2 places to work, really, to make money.
Yeah.
And for the most part, and that's AEW and WWE. So when you see this sort of thing out of one of those 2 places, it's not great. And it's even more to think about of what would happen if they were a monopoly now. That's quite frightening. If there wasn't an AEW at this point.
Forget it.
Yeah, that... 17% UFC paying 15%, 17% they between them and UFC that they pay their talent compared to profits. Be a lot lower than that, wouldn't it? So
yeah.
Right, let's move on to AEW. Now we've finished with WrestleMania for another year.
Yay! No more WrestleMania.
No more Pat McAfee. No more the business.
The business of
the business.
The business.
He did what's right for the business. He's left the business.
He cares about the business.
He cares about the business.
So, AEW Dynasty happened. The last time we spoke was going on that evening. Mm-hmm. Kenny Omega lost.
I like the glass tapping just before that.
So yeah, Kenny Omega lost, and Darby Allin beat Andrade, and Darby Allin on Dynasty said, "I want my title shot on Wednesday Night Dynamite." And then MJF in the most kayfabe breaking thing possible on any television show I've ever watched said he was going to take a social media sabbatical.
That's like the most unbelievable thing about this whole entire thing.
And I laughed.
Did he take 3 days off social media and being at a DMs?
No fucking way. No fucking way. But he claimed he was going to take a social media sabbatical, and this opening of Dynamite last Wednesday was that MJF had no idea that they had booked a title match for him with Darby that night on the show. And last week's Dynamite as a television show was really enjoyably good. This is one of those things where I kind of separate out the booking from the long-term booking and the implications and everything else from the actual 2-hour television program I watched. The 2-hour television program I watched was really entertaining, and I enjoyed all of it. And it was just a fun episode of television that ended with Darby beating MJF for the World Championship with a side headlock takeover, which is a nice callback to their whole feud thing that they had. What was it? Full Gear 2021? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, 21. Yeah,
they had a spectacular match on Full Gear 2021. Possibly stole the show, which made it kind of disappointing that MJF beat Darby, Darby beat MJF with just 4 coffin drops and a low blow. It was not the kind of match that you were sort of hoping for, or at least I would have liked it a little bit differently, but we can get into that in a minute. So Darby Allin is your AEW world champion, and let's see what happens. He seems to have a bunch of contenders lined up for him. He had a match this week with Tommaso Ciampa. And then
you love saying that name.
I do. I'm listening to Ali from Tunnel Talk and just being like the Goblin King Tommaso Ciampa. And it looks like he's got Brody King lined up. Who else? It seems like they're pushing Roosh a little bit. He might get a title win. It definitely seems
Mark
like they're
Davis probably will.
Mark Davis, thank you.
Yep.
That's the one I couldn't think of. So yeah, they've got some stuff lined up for Darby's title reign, and MJF is still. This will shock many of you. MJF lost the title last week and opened the show this week with a nice long promo. I didn't see that one coming. I would never have expected that. And basically is like, I want my title back, yada, yada, yada. But now he's spinning off into a side quest with Kevin Knight, the Jet, to fly. And they're going to have a TNT title match this week. So we shall see what happens there. I suspect shenanigans, Trish. But who knows? What did you think, Trish, about Darby's title victory? Were you as oddly touched by it as I? Okay, that sounds weird. Darby touched me oddly.
that can go with the thing on the school bus. It was like, what?
Were you as affected by Darby's title win as I was?
So, when we talked about waiting a week last week, there were 2 stories that we potentially thought there would be in that week, right? And one of them was this.
Yes.
And the other one didn't break, and now we'll come back. But that's the way wrestling is sometimes. And this one, you saw a lot of people straight after Dynasty, reporters and stuff, just breaking it just on the timeline, which was quite interesting. But I also thought was kind of a bit of a tactic because if you think about it, some of their biggest ratings have come from stirring shit up on Twitter, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Vikingo Kenny Omega one, and that's not to take away from Kenny because we'll talk about Kenny's big match, but that was one where they did the stir up, and Hook and Samoa Joe, right?
Yes.
That was another one where there was a stir up on Twitter for a few days, and then when you look at both of those kind of matches, when you look at the quarter hours, it was a build up and then a shoot up at the end, right? Both of those matches did really, really well, broke the entire pattern of the show, biggest things on the show by much, and a lot of that was generated by stirring something up on social media. So even when you get to the point where Fightful were releasing literally Darby's going to win tonight before the show started an hour out, I was like, okay, this is, you can claim it's whatever, but there's part of it is this is a ratings play, and you can say it's you want as many people as possible to see Darby win the belt, absolutely. And you're going up against, some big kind of competition in terms of the playing games. It's kind of funny, actually, because they've had big competition for a lot of their big numbers this year. So if you look at the 2 Omega Swerve matches, one was World Baseball Classic NBA. They've had big competition throughout for their big shows. So that's not always hurt them. And I wonder if that's where the new rating system kind of plays in or not. But that's what I thought they were aiming for. And look, I'm going to be perfectly honest, when I first heard about this idea, I didn't think it was great. And sometimes you need to see something as well, right? But again, it's long-term, short-term. So for me, it's when you first hear about it, you think, okay, there's 2 alternative pathways here. You either switch the belt to Omega, right? And you have him against whoever for the summer. Or you do this thing, you keep it on Max at Dynasty, and you do this Derby thing, and then I think the TV's made it, I can say this now because the TV's made it really fucking crystal clear that there'll be a championship match with Derby and MJF involved at Double or Nothing, right?
Yeah.
The TV made that really fucking crystal clear. I know people have talked about it as a multi-man. I think it should be a singles if you're going to do it, because at the end of the day, I know it's in Max's home, basically home market, and that's difficult in terms of the crowd response and stuff and that. But you want to show if you want Darby to be more than just kind of this, transitional reign in the middle of an MJF run, essentially, which is what I think they're doing. You want like to show him to be a bit more so you can have him as a challenger again and you want to top him on pay-per-views, then give him the pay-per-view, you know. Show him that you actually trust him with the pay-per-view main event with a title match at a big show. Don't do the whole, oh, yeah, we added 4 other people, because that doesn't say the same thing, right? If you want the worth out of this, then that's what I do. But it's like, okay, so you do that, and I thought, it's so close to Kenny, right? And when I saw the finish of the Kenny match, I actually felt it was worse, because, like, it was such a cheap finish after such a long match, right? Which I thought was a very good match. I didn't think it was a great match. I think maybe we had too much expectation coming in. But that's just sometimes the way it is. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you do the cheap finish and that sort of thing. And then it's like, you're going to have Darby win. And I thought, when I watched the finish that he had with like Andrade with Dynasty, I thought, like, this is like the craziest lead up I can think of to a title win they've ever done in so many ways, because it's like, you haven't made him look kind of strong at all. Like, they had the idea of how to make him look strong. So you had him kind of start of the year declaring, but he was so far away from like the Swerve, Kenny, Hangman, Andrade stuff that you never really saw him as a threat. And then you do the Gabe Kidd match, and you know, that one was delivered so like weirdly that when he announced his title challenge, it was to fucking silence. No one took him seriously then again. And then you do the Andrade thing on pay-per-view, you know, with a large amount of support still for Andrade, even though how close they are to Darby's home market. And it's like, you then do that, and he wins with his Last Supper. And because, like, but rather than treating it as like technical maneuver, you know, with a roll up sort of thing, it's like, they treat it like it's a shock win. And I thought, fucking hell, like, this guy's gonna win your title. Like, why are you saying it like a fluke? Like, don't sell it like a fluke when you want this guy to go over MGF on Wednesday. When, like, you've just had him, like, beat, you know, Paige and Omega back to back, and have him, like, you know, he's doing his thing, I kick out on Wing Angel and all that stuff. It's like, it felt so bizarre to me. But then, you know, what they did with TV was, you know, they made it you're right, as like a collective, like, one episode thing, like a story from beginning to end, right? So you start with the opening promo and that sort of stuff, and you go all the way through, and they executed that bit well. I agree. Really well. Yeah.
Like, they tend to do those single show storylines very well. When they do decide to execute them, they execute them. That's a thing they're pretty good at.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it was nice having the Sting touch and stuff, and, you know, the opening promo with Darby was just like, couldn't control his emotions.
It was very sweet in a way that I was like, oh, this poor crazy man. Like, what? Yeah. It was adorable, but also I was like, oh, you just gave it away, buddy. We all knew it, but you gave it away too.
Yeah, but it's probably the most human that I think he's ever been.
Yes, he came across as like a real person. In speaking, let's put it this way. Darby comes across very human in his matches, but his promos are miss and miss. I think you could probably say that maybe 15% of his promos are good. And it's not because of his delivery. I want to make it clear. I have no problem with people with different types of delivery. His content is always fucking insane. It's like, why do you care about this? That's not your character at all. So like, this was very touching and like really probably one of his best promos he's ever given.
Yeah, and he probably needed that because, you know, you look coming in, and I thought it was really funny because Jesse Collins' like fan survey came out like a couple of weeks before, right?
Right.
And if you looked at like the top babyface list, he wasn't on the top 10.
No.
And, you know, Jesse had said in our Discord that he'd actually come in 13th on most disliked, and he was kind of like really shocked because it's like, but Darby's great. And it's like, yeah, but you've got to understand,
Jesse posted this elsewhere where he said that Darby was like 13th most disliked and 18th most liked. Like his where he positioned in most liked and most disliked was very similar.
And that's like unusual when someone that's a babyface, it's been a babyface their entire thing. And normally, you know, when you have someone that's close to a title win as a babyface, you tend to want them to be in like that top 3 to 5, right? So if you look at that top 3, like their top 3, I think his top 3 this year was like Kenny, Will, and Hangman, and last year was Hangman, Kenny, Will, or one or two. I can't remember the other way around, but it's like, you tend to want people to be in that bubble, or at least be on the precipice of that, right? But he's not been on either. So you could see that there was going to be a mixed response, right? I think that you saw off some of it because of the way that they did the one-show story, but you were never going to see off all of it because there isn't that type of level of babyface connection to Darby that there is to Will, that there is to Paige, that there is to Omega in AEW at this point.
I think Darby has been hotter at other times in AEW's history.
If you'd done this straight after Revolution in 2024, right? It would have...
Yes, or right after he lost the TNT title the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is like, so he did come in cold in that respect. And you're doing it in the right place, right? Because you're doing it in Everett, so just outside of Seattle. A couple hours driving time. By the way, people talk about the traffic there. It sounds horrific. Sounds like UK. And then you're going to do the next show in Portland. So you're kind of guaranteeing that you should get the right responses. But you could see it was Cole coming in another way as well, because you can look at what they did ticket-wise, and it just didn't move tickets. That, their walk-up was like 200. And they were down, 17% on their last visit. It's maybe not what you want. And you feel harsh about saying things about hometowns and home markets, because if you look at what they've done with Derby, and maybe this is why, you maybe didn't get quite the rating of the year that they wanted, or quite like the generation for local buzz for the matches. They've had him challenge for titles a long time there, but they've also had people lose over and over fucking again in that state, right? So, they had what do you call the bag over his head thing that Moxley did to Danielson? What do you call it? Yeah, you had that, didn't you? That happened there. The Danielson losing the belt to Moxley. You had the Darby losing in the main event to Christian the year before at Wrestle Dream. And then you've had like all these things happen in that state where you had like Swerve on the poster again for his home market, not there, delivered, and it's like they don't look after that state very well. I think you can say that about the history, but it's still like would have been a disappointment that it hasn't surfaced in those kind of numbers. And it's like, so he was cold coming in, but they did a really good job of the one thing story, and I think there's an element of it. And I listened to a lot of the arguments, that week, and the board thread that was discussing it was great because it gave me some perspectives that I didn't have, and it gives you the ability to kind of discuss it. And it's one of those things, right? So, one, I think people like moments much more than they claim to, right? So everyone talking about the Mick Foley thing, and the Mick Foley thing was pretty much a side to in the, McMahon-led heel faction against Stone Cold, right? But people still love that moment. They still look back on that moment, like 30 years from now, like on, and they, do you remember the night that Mick Foley won the world title? I think there's still an element to that. And as much as people say, oh, we need this and we need that, there's still that thing for that. It's like Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30, right? They don't remember so much what came after it and the mess that was the following year, but they remember that moment. And I think we'll probably see the same with like Hangers Win last year, right? That'll be the same thing. People will remember that moment and the build up to that moment rather than kind of anything else. But it's like the same thing. So I think when you see that kind of thing with Darby, and it's like a payoff in so many aspects, because what they were clever as, they brought in so many things from the history of him. Yeah. Not just like the headlock takeover stuff, but the stuff with Sting and the stuff about like the failing. They brought all that in, and the video packages were very good as well. For people that love video packages, these were good video packages, right?
They were very good video packages.
But yeah, they brought that all into the moment, and the execution of the match. Yeah, like look, and lots of people commented on it from my Dave Meltzer to Sean Ross Sapp to other people. MJF clearly has the thing where he has the Brock Lesnar thing when he wants to lose, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm doing it fast. They're not getting a full match out of me. No. I'm doing a super quick match. I'm going to get beat definitively. I'm going to look really generous and great. Like I'm putting him over. Like, look how great I am as a friend. I'm not really putting him over. No, you're not. I'm putting him over, but I'm not really putting him over. There's plausible deniability here. Yes, like, right? The cynical bitch part of me is like, all right, yeah, I see what's going on here, guy.
Yeah, well, most workers do. Like, most wrestlers you talk to will say similar. Like, Rich got like a load of shit for saying fake job, but essentially it is, right?
Yeah,
that's how they see it. Because you're not, and you're not putting him over.
He did this with Wardlow.
Yeah, and he's not like, but you like a character like Darby Allin who earns everything, right? And do you earn it in this way with the low blow and then the
that was the
finishes?
Part where like I finished watching the match, and again, I can't stress enough that it was a really good hour, like 2 hours of television, and I was genuinely moved. But there was that part of me when it was over that was like, oh. We just decided it was Darby's turn to have the belt now. Like it didn't feel like a story or like an achievement. It was just like, oh, it was Darby's turn to win this. And like the thing that kills me about like like, talk about the Mick Foley thing. One of the things I will never understand where this came from in wrestling is the number of times I have heard over the last 2 weeks, well, Darby can't have the belt for a long time. Darby can only have a short reign. And I'm like, do I think that Darby having a short reign works for him as a character? Absolutely, because I think it makes sense that he's going to kill himself trying to defend the thing. But I also feel like people were saying this without any context of Darby as a character. It was like, Darby has to have a short reign because he's not a tall man. Like, I don't understand why this, like, why couldn't Darby hold the belt for 6 months? Like, I don't get why this is like a de facto default. This can only be the way Darby wins a championship like this. Is a fluke win.
Yeah, but they've told you that. They've told you that by the way they did it.
They
and
did,
now they're trying
but
to
I
earn
fucking
it back.
disagree with it.
But they're trying to earn it back now by having him defend against monsters every week, right? But it's also a part... The thing is, you can look at it like that, and if you were telling Darby Allin's story as the top story here, right?
Yeah.
Then that's what you do, essentially. And I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't have done... You know, you could have done the thing where he's just like, you know, he's just had the long match with Kenny, and you could do a longer match where Darby earns it. I think you could have done that. I don't think it hurts MJF, especially when you're going into Double or Nothing in his home market. We don't need to fucking guess it. You can work it out yourselves, right? Like, does it hurt him to do that? No. It doesn't hurt him to do that. But what you have to see is like, yeah, this is a Darby story, but it's an interlude in an MJF story, right?
Right.
So, but if they
we need to take time off because we're in basketball season or whatever.
Well, he's not taking time, but it's like, yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute because we got a question that when I saw it, I was like, oh, good, we can talk about it. But the whole thing is like, you're giving Darby something that they've wanted to give him for a long time, right? You know, they first looked at giving him the belt in what properly, you know, from my knowledge, in what autumn winter 2024, right before Moxley came back,
right?
And you know, and that was also going to be a short run, and he was going to lose it to a heel at a time where it's not fucking brilliant. You can work out who that was pretty easily. And then Moxley came back, changed up the plan, and said, you know, we'll do this, and we do Darby all in, right? So, you know, it'll help to the heel thing. It'll get him over more than just beating Danielson, you know, in a singles or freeway or whatever way you're going to do it. And there was discussions about, you know, we heard discussions about either. So you do that. So they had that goal of doing it, and they were going to do the short run. They were going to do something very, very similar to what they're doing now. And then they looked at it for All In. Obviously, the time didn't work out, and they thought, okay, maybe we'll extend it to WrestleDream, and we'll put Ospreay in there and have him lose. Which could you imagine the meltdown if they had that happen? Jesus fucking Christ! You know, and Paige had turned to go into a tag match with Swerve against the Bucks, and then they were going to do a big. You know, they had things about a big tag thing, Forbidden Door, but it was like, we'll do Darby at WrestleDream then, and it would have been the same thing, right? It would have been a short thing, and then MJF would have picked the belt up, because that was the only surety like last year, was that belt, whoever it went to, you know, after Moxley, he was going to MJF, okay? And it's like they've had these plans to do it, so they've always wanted to put him in this position, but what you're doing here now is, like, so you're trying to say that he could always be a potential, you know, competitor for the world title, he can always be a potential threat, similar way they use Samoa Joe, isn't it?
Yes.
But you're not telling the story of him being a true top guy. You're not saying he's going to lead us from pay-per-view to pay-per-view and be the front man of our thing. And I don't know, you can look at that either way. You can say, okay, that's fine because that's his role. You know, maybe he doesn't have as much as, you know, I think his promos, he's probably cutting some of the better promos of his career, because then I think part of that is they're really clearly defined, right? He has a very clear goal, very clear aim, very clear story layout to Double or Nothing. I think that really helps him. He's another one, you know, we talk about people need editors, he needs structure. So it's like, you really have that. But, you know, they're telling you they don't see him as the guy that can be like the very top babyface in the company. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that is something where you look at his style and that sort of thing and you think, okay, maybe it's not. I don't know. But it's like, maybe there isn't that choice there. And maybe we wanted to see that choice. Maybe you wanted to see if he could be that person and we're not going to. I don't know. I think it's complicated. But at the end of the day, look, I think what they're trying to do is you get this interlude. I think I read Aaron Wachowski's piece on After Dynasty, and he very much pointed out, like, MJF was out of challenges, right?
Right.
You know, Moxie's heel, Swerve's heel. Oh, Moxie's doing Batman things now, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
that's amazing. Yeah,
it's not going to happen. It was not going to happen, right?
Fucking love it.
Yeah, but, you know, there was not going to be a Moxie MJF program, so it doesn't really matter. Swerve's heel, and, you know, disappeared, now needs soft reboot, whatever. Who else you got? You beat Hangman, you beat Kenny Omega, that's your two top elite guys who will do the thing. Fine, okay. Who have you got left? who is left on the baby side? Are you going to turn Andrade and do something with him? You're probably still going to do something with him. He's still teasing that, isn't he? Fine, okay. Who else is left? There is no one. Like, you've cleared out the division, right? That's where you're at now. So it's like, there was no continuation. So it's like, in a way, this allows you to do something and come back, but it's like, you're still limited on a run. And, we'll talk about the July thing in a bit. But that's where you were. So there's benefits to putting it onto Darby now. You do the shock win in terms of trying to teach people that TV is worth watching, especially during the start of the NBA playoffs, where they have traditionally gone down in ratings each year. It's a little bit difficult to comprehend what's going to happen because their performance against big sports has been better this year under this new system than it was previously. But in general, that's the pattern. And especially the start of the NBA and NHL playoffs, tends to not be the end where they suffer as much. It tends to be the start, which is now. And that's mainly because you've got a lot of teams in big markets where, we were talking about AEW have a lot of their kind of TV audiences are centralized in the big city markets. So when you've got a lot of them competing in whichever sport, you're going to get, and then we also had this week had a Red Sox Yankees game, didn't it? So you're going to have that. So there is a argument to say that you can counteract, right? Because you mentioned the WTNT run earlier. So there was two that people think of. I think of the one where he beat Samoa Joe, held it for a month, lost it back to Joe in Dayton, Ohio, which was 2023. Spring 2023. And then you had the one that most people will think of, which will be the one in spring 2021, when just at the time when NXT moved away from Wednesday nights. And the first 5 weeks after that, Darby was the main event each time with the TNT title. And they really built momentum, didn't they? So if you look at the names on the defenses, it's like John Silver, Matt Hardy. You're not talking like fucking... We're not talking like, winners here. Sorry, but we're not. But you had these names where it was but there was a momentum about seeing the Darby Allin match, because whether you think Darby is, top guy in company material, mid-guy material, whatever you think about him, what you can't not say about Darby Allin, and, as much as you can say about his prowess or whatever, his lack of character development or anything what you want to say, he's a great TV wrestler.
Yes.
He's one of the best TV wrestlers they have,
yes.
Consistently. And that's been true from moment that he stepped in the company. And when you look at that run in 2021, it was that momentum of having these great TV matches that became an attraction. And if you want to argue about Darby as an attraction, I'd probably look at 2021 to 2022 as when he was at the top of that kind of feeling of he actually felt like an attraction. And that was what I think, when I look at it, is I think they want that in this run, in this period where they traditionally suffer. Whereas if they kept the belt on MJF, it's what is there to do between now and Double or Nothing that would rectify that, that would, challenge that? And you can argue that's different if they put the belt on Kenny Omega, right? Kenny, who's had numerous things during the NBA playoffs and stuff where successes, biggest one to think about is the steel cage match with Jon Moxley. Did a crazy number against ridiculous competition. But they haven't made that decision. They've made a decision to stick with MJF and then put the belt on Darby. So you're looking at what benefit is there to them from a business perspective, and maybe that's the other one. And then, the other bit to that, I might as well jump to that question because it's here in this bit, and then we'll come back to Kenny, Will, and everything else. There are some attendance stuff that is more difficult in this quarter. So we got a question from, I'll read the question first and then I'll go through this bit. So we got a question from Jason on Blue Sky. It's not his screen name because he said, I don't want to share my name just in case because of the snakes. So the question, to be honest, considering some of the responses I get, I don't blame him. But he said, I can't help but notice that MGF would regain the title if he, I can't read. I can't help but notice that if MJF regains the title at Double or Nothing, he will have dropped the title for the harder part of playoff season and some of the weaker upcoming advances. Am I seeing something that isn't there? And look, I've just talked about the benefits of putting on Darby during this period. You can look at it that way. And something that really pissed me off this week.
Our boy Raj Giri.
Oh, not just him. I saw some stuff on the attendance stuff with the WrestleTix stuff, right? And it was the same thing. And it was away, it was I don't think Darby's the guy because Portland, Oregon didn't, surpass last visit, right? And there wasn't, and look, to be honest, there wasn't a massive walk-up. There wasn't great last week's sales. Okay, fine. And obviously there wasn't great last week's sales forever. But that's kind of where they are for Q2 at the moment. And so, you're coming back with the back of Q4. So quarter 4, they were up 6% average ticket sales from the year previous for Dynamite, 3,300 from 3,100. And then Q1, where they were up 15% from 2,700 to 3,100. So this quarter so far, and this one's a tougher one because traditionally quarter 2 is their best performing quarter of the year. I think that spring thing, they use bigger venues in general. They've done more international things. Like last year we saw the Mexico City show, things like Chicago, that sort of thing. They did 3.9K. So far for this quarter, they had Winnipeg, that was down 15% on last visit, Edmonton 13% down last visit, Everett 17% down, Portland 8% down, and Fairfax should be the first one up for this quarter, being that it was ahead from the moment that it opened. Funny enough, when I saw the match announcements, I fucking giggled at, you've got to make sure you're on that one. It's funny. But then they've got North Charleston, which they're tracking behind the number that was the Samoa Joe Hook match, which at the time was the lowest number they'd ever done for a Dynamite. And they're tracking behind in Asheville. And then the last show before Double or Nothing is in Portland, Maine, which is a new market, which has quite a good entrance price, actually. It's $27.70, which I think is the lowest entry price for a Dynamite I've seen in a very, very long time. And then you go up to Double or Nothing, which obviously, huge number, going to be a big success. First pay-per-view in the New York market. If you want to skip out on a period of upcoming sales, this would be the one to do it in. But this is what I'd be really, really careful of, because you can look at it as in, you're doing this Derby run because you're going to do title matches every week. People know it's a short-term period, here for a good time, not for a long time, etc. So the idea is to energize that, right? So you've got things that are falling behind where they were last time. It's a bit harder in Q2 because you're going up against numbers that are a bit more competitive. A lot of the Q1 numbers were going up against Q1 last year, which was probably their worst performing quarter in a very, very long time. It was down 29% in market to market last year, which was worse performing than Q3, which should be the worst because of the residencies. The fact that was outdone by Q1 tells you how much they struggled in Q1 last year. So, it's harder. And you're missing, some of your 18 to 34 live draws. And that's the people that spark the late ticket sales, right? So you're missing your Tony Storm, you're missing your Paige, you're missing, Mega's off for a few weeks now. Swerve disappeared into the ether. Hopefully soon out the Mirage. So it's a challenge. It's more of a challenge than maybe it was. But it's so you can look at it like that. But the people that are straight away jumping on Darby's back, and it's you've got to look at it and say, he's getting good reactions, but have they prepared him for this spot? No, they haven't. We know that. We can see that. We've seen the build up to it. They've not prepared him to succeed in that spot. But also, he's inheriting these numbers. Yeah?
Yeah.
He's inheriting these numbers. And whether he can turn them around or not, if he turns them around, great. That's a big feather in his cap. If he doesn't, it shouldn't be on him. And there is already a customary thing to do that thing where it's they've taken the belt off MJF and the TV, people saw the TV number that appeared and disappeared on Program Inside for this week. It's it's because Darby's won the belt. And it's this is what you want to avoid. And this is why, if you're MJF, that's the Hulk Hogan thing. It's the Roman Reigns thing, isn't it? You escape them periods of TV where you're going to get knocked on a thing. And it probably doesn't work fully for him because, if he gets the belt back at Double or Nothing, you've got the World Cup right around the corner. So, and then I can already see the fucking line. You know what the line will be then? Right? The line will be if they'd never taken it off in the first place, then it wouldn't be But that's the thing. So, the way I look at this with Darby, you can look at it in two ways. Yeah, you can look at it as MJF escaping the harder parts just as, the numbers aren't as positive as they were for him in Q1. And I think you can look at it, there was a lot of other things going on in Q1 that, he made, a good foil for all the baby faces chasing. But you can look at all them baby faces chasing and the people that were involved there were just as important as it was that he was there. Right. And now you don't have that so much, right? And as that turns down, or you still have lots of people challenging, but it's not the same caliber. And that's no disrespect to any of them. It's just not like it's just the way it is. So yeah, maybe he is running away from it. Maybe he isn't. It looks. You can see it. Look, it does look suspect. Of course it does because of the timing. The timing is exactly that. But you can also look at the other way as well and saying a given Darby opportunity. But is he set up to succeed? No. It's like,
of course not.
And look, I think he can be, I think he'll have some great television defenses and some matches. That you can see the setup, the people that he's wrestling. It's his forte, right? The bigger guy challenging him. And the psychology is a little weird sometimes. I thought Brody coming out and just being like, yeah, he's you next. Like, he's like everywhere, like dying. It's like, just didn't make me think, oh yeah, Brody's a great baby face. It made me think, well, you're a little bitch. But it's like, yeah, so, they've got the setup for there. So on TV, I think that people, even if it's only an interlude, even if, like, that's it, I think people will enjoy it. I don't know how much of a business success it will be viewed in because it's not been set up to be.
No.
No. Is what I would say on that. The other thing that I thought was really important, though, that they had to do, this is my little transition, here we go, that's 2 today, was I thought that if you were going to do this, you had to set up a mega for later down the line. Because I thought the biggest problem that you've got is that you're making people think about choosing between them, right? Is it Kenny or is it Darby? And it's like, I thought that was really dangerous. And what I did think was that segment that they did on Dynamite with Will and Kenny, very similar to the Swerve Hangman segment before All In last year, was I think they did a really, really good job of telling you, like, okay, these guys are low, right? You know, Kenny's just lost this match to MJF in the exact way he said he wouldn't lose the match, which is still driving me up the fucking wall. It was a different finish to what I planned. There was someone else involved originally in that finish. That wasn't. So, but it was like, you do that finish and it's like, okay, but at least by doing that segment, you basically told the audience that, he's coming back around. And I thought that was really, really important because like it makes that Derby thing much less kind of combative to some people, who really wanted to see Kenny win the belt and Kenny be at Wembley. And they kind of told you in that segment what the Wembley main event was. I thought it was quite interesting to do it. And finally to put it on TV, And I know people was like, oh, it can be the Owen final. And I'm like, do you really think they're daft enough to have the audience have to pick between Ospreay and someone else they really like for the 3rd straight year? Like, yeah. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. So, yeah, they've set the parameters up for another Kenny NJF match. And obviously, like, going up towards the middle of the summer, which obviously everyone's seen the trademark for Redemption now. I know the Observer Radio reported it as like that will be the July pay-per-view. We've had kind of different things. We've heard that might be the July pay-per-view. We've heard that they might be moving another pay-per-view name into there, and that might be a TV special. But I think what everyone agrees is there is a July pay-per-view.
Yes.
There is a July pay-per-view. And I think the important thing, the thing about it is like, I get that it's another pay-per-view, right? And people are thinking about paying all this kind of thing. I think if you are outside the US and you're using the My AEW service, and you're thinking about like the tiers, then it stops you from going to a lower tier in that thing. And that's something they'll be thinking about too. But I think there's 2 other things as well. And if you look at the bill for last year, you had the bill for Double or Nothing into All In. And there was like 6 weeks between Double or Nothing and All In. And it felt like one fluid build, didn't it? Like coming out of Dynasty all the way to All In felt like one fluid build. And I think you want to kind of rectify that. And having a pay-per-view there doesn't actually stop that if it's all within the build for Wembley. If you're trying to build something else in 4 weeks and then throwing everything together, that doesn't work. But if you're going to use like the Owen finals and you're going to use like, I don't know, another title match to set up Wembley, then I think it works quite well. So I think you can do that and have that fluidity to it. But there's also that thing of you've got a World Cup this year and that is prime time and that's going to decimate you. Like there isn't anything else that's bigger than that. So in a way, refocusing as that comes to a close and then going towards Wembley is going to be helpful. So I don't think it's the worst decision in the world. I think there's value to it, and then obviously we'll see what that looks like. Talking of Wembley, so Wembley at the moment is 23,200, so they've got a lot of work to do. And obviously everyone knows one side of the draw, right? Which is Will Ospreay. What are you thinking of Will Ospreay's return so far? Because we've not really talked about it since Revolution.
I'm not enjoying him getting beat up every week. I don't know. I appreciate the story they're trying to tell. I struggled with this with Danielson when they're telling the story that like he shouldn't physically be doing this, because there's always that thing in wrestling where you're like, should he physically be doing this? Like, you hear too many horror stories about it. It starts to make you feel guilty about like, should I be watching and encouraging this man if he's genuinely damaging himself to the point where he's not gonna be able to walk in his old age? And I don't want to get into like the hysterical overreaction, like to, you know what I mean? Like we hear from certain podcasters about like, oh my God, he's going to die and all this other stuff. Like he's an adult man and, he sees doctors and
choices.
Right. Like this is what he wants to do. It's fine. But when they keep hammering it over and over again, like, and I fucking hate, and I hated when Buddy Murphy did it. And I feel like Sammy Guevara did it once and it was fine. I don't want to see a worked angle with the fucking doctor in the middle of the match. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I think and if we see it, it should be like once every 6 years. I just feel like it's not effective. I don't like it. I'm not stupid. I know what an actual in-ring injury looks like. And this is not that, okay? He would not be on television. They would have thrown up the X. The match would be over. This is not entertaining for me, I guess is the best way to describe it. And it's fine. I'll deal with it when it's a one-off, but when it's week after week after week after week, and this has nothing to do with that whole thing about Ospreay doesn't sell, which was some bullshit from some person that everybody turned into this. Like that, this has nothing to do with Ospreay selling. I think Ospreay sells fine. This is just, I don't know. The one thing I will say is that they did do a promo last night on Collision between Ospreay and Moxley after Ospreay got kidnapped after the match on Wednesday by the Death Riders. Just carried off, kidnapped.
And his wife didn't care. Well, his future wife didn't care.
Fucking love this shit. I love this shit. Like, this is the part where, like, Jon Moxley is insane, and I'm so glad he is, because we wouldn't have stuff like this, where they kidnapped him and took him to a bunker or, like, a basement of some kind. Then with a film crew there that cut multiple angles. Like, it wasn't just one camera, because we had multiple camera shots, which I was like, God bless you. God bless you. Like, this was just deranged bullshit with Moxley being like, what do you want? What do you want? What's your goal? You don't even know what your goal is. And I was like, no, he doesn't. He's a human golden retriever. This man doesn't have goals. He just goes out and bounces around until they tell him to stop. And then they put him back in his hyperbaric chamber overnight. Like, he doesn't have goals. This is the least complicated man to ever live. Like, in terms of a wrestling character. Like, what the fuck? Like, if you've seen a Will Ospreay match, I don't want to see Will Ospreay wrestling with his emotional demons. That's not what I'm here. I'm here for a good time. I don't know. So, like, this to me is like,
his emotional demons is whether to go to Nando's or right. Like, tortilla,
or to get a kebab on the from the chippy. I don't know. It's the best I could do. If they're going to turn this into something a little bit better, I think there are ways you could tell an emotionally resonant story with Will Ospreay if you have other people driving the bus. And if Jon Moxley wants to drive the bus for Will Ospreay's emotional storyline going into Wembley, I'm all here for it. I just need them to stop with the neck hurt bullshit. Like, I'm over it, okay? We get it. If his neck hurts that badly, maybe he should go home, okay? Like... It's not for me. Like, it's not for me. Especially when you're like, okay, you pretty much out and out told us that he's winning the title at Wembley. Like, I want us to get there in a slightly more interesting way. Like, that's all I ask. That's all I ask. But it has not been cutting it for me. Also, the fact that he has no friends and nobody gives a flying fuck when the Don Callis family is beating him up. Nobody cares. Not even Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet 2 Fly care about, like, this guy getting beaten up. It's just, like, and Speedball will come out there for a fucking potato. Like, if a jobber's getting beaten up, Speedball's like, yay, let's help him. Nope, not Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay can go fuck himself.
Can you do a Moxley voice for, like, you are the Batman?
Will Ospreay. No, because then I'm going to turn into John Pollock's version of Triple H. Claudio doesn't even know. Nobody knows. Not even Danny Garcia knows. Marina knows, but that's it. And that's what we're going to do to you at our sex dungeon. Renee doesn't know.
Renee's too busy hiding your wife.
Yeah. God damn. In joke after in joke here on
Oh
the podcast today.
God.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there you go. That's our Will Ospreay thoughts.
Yeah, so for me it was like, the Doctor thing always brings me back to Forbidden Door. You remember like there was a groan when the Doctor came out in the Shingo Bryan Danielson match where people were like, for fuck's sake, we've had enough of this.
You've seen it already.
Like, we've seen it 10 times, like, stop it. But the one thing about the Danielson one, it was like, he was doing it with like a goal in mind, right? Like, he had to get to Wembley and the doctors were saying he couldn't wrestle and he mixed it up and whatever. But, like, at least there was some remnant of thing there. And it's like, why is Ospreay doing this? Like, there's no fucking reason to. Like, you weren't doing it to get revenge on the Death Riders after, like, Dynasty. Like, you're not doing it in a match against Mark Davis. Like, what are you doing? It's like, there's no stakes. It's like people are like, oh, it's like sports. Like, no, like, if I'm watching a footballer, like I'm gonna bring you a Portsmouth name. There you go, because I don't fucking care anymore. Football season's over. I'm not talking about Man United women. But like, if we have a player called Josh Murphy, right? He comes back. Is he gonna come back if he wasn't ready for the end of the season? If they were, comfortably in the middle, not really doing much, nothing really going on, nothing to do for. Like, and he was really hurt. No, he fucking wouldn't. Like, you don't get injections to play, like, Cleveland Browns when you're 0-16 in week 16 for an AFL reference, do you?
Right.
Of course you fucking don't. Like, you do it when you mean something when there's stakes. And at least with the Danielson thing, it had stakes. And I thought it was very heavy-handed. It made the Doctor look fucking stupid. Like, he can't take his robe off. Then why the fuck is he cleared? He's not fucking cleared then, is he? You made your doctors look, like, completely incompetent. At least they're getting somewhere now with that. But I think what this is... And this is the deal where, everybody knows that Ospreay's winning that belt at Wembley. There's no, no one's taking him out of their fucking graphics or nothing, are they? Or anything like that, right? So everybody knows it's happening. So then you've got that thing like Cody had before WrestleMania 41, right? 40, sorry. Where you're trying to find a way to engage people to the one that they are desperate for this to happen. Not like an expectation, but they're desperate for it. Because that maybe is the difference between you going, you know what, I'll just watch it at home, or I won't buy a ticket. There's no reason to go. I know it's going to happen anyway. I'm sure it'll be good, but, I'm not desperate to see this, right? Or, maybe I won't buy it on pay-per-view. Maybe I'll wait for it to come on, if you're in the UK, to come onto ITV on the Thursday after. It's fine. That's the difference. It's a difference in spend. It's a difference between, we saw it last year, how many people that we know that were just like, as soon as that match was announced, we're like, we're fucking flying! Because it was like, they felt like they needed it. They felt like it was something they had to see. It was something, it meant so much to people, like Naito and, Wrestle Kingdom 20, that sort of thing. And having that sort of emotional investment, and especially on a year when you're attempting Wembley for a third time, which, we've spoken years and years around what we thought that wasn't a great idea, and, the numbers turn out as it is. But when you are attempting that, you need that sort of loyalty. You need that sort of investment where people are fucking desperate to see this thing, because that's what's going to get you enough late ticket sales to get you a respectable number for Wembley Stadium. It'd be a great number for your company. It's still going to be an incredible number, but it's Wembley Stadium. So the only way you're going to do that is to get people to be absolutely fucking desperate for Will to win by that point. So that's what they're attempting to do, and when you think about with Cody, like, the Cody thing happened because as much as he hates TKO, like, the TKO intervention with The Rock changed that. It got that investment, right? All of a sudden, people thought, we're going to lose this. So you went from a lukewarm kind of Royal Rumble response to, oh my God, we need to support this guy. Like, it can't be that. They can't innovate. They can't change this. We need this guy to win. And that's what they're looking for. And it's really, really difficult when when everyone knows something's coming. Like, they know he's going to be kind of, coronated. I was going to say something really bad there. Mix my words up. Oh my God, that would have been bad. Just bad word choice. But yeah, everyone knows he's going to be coronated there. So you have this inevitability, and you're trying to battle with that. So you're trying to find something that feels that way, that captures people in a way that, that desperation of wanting something has for other characters. That's what you're looking for. Whether this does it or not, sure, but at least they're trying in that regard. But yeah, it's just been so heavy-handed, and I can see, like, because he's not looked like someone who needs to fight back or change something. He's just looked weak, and you're looking at this guy and you're thinking, this is the point that the Observer are making, other people are making. It's like, this is the guy they want to be their top babyface. This is the guy that has to replace the guy that sells pay-per-views for fun, late ticket sales for fun. You need this guy to be more than just the person that's presented as the top guy on TV. You need him to be your top draw. You need him to lead that company. Like, is it the best thing to do to make him look weak? Like, because if you want him to look like fucking Superman, I keep saying it, but that's what I do. And now he's going to be Batman, but he's Superman. But that's what you want him to be. So if you want him to be that, like, you need to present him as that. And, like, that means taking him away from something that he's done for his entire career. And look, I think there's some clever elements of it, because obviously they're pulling him towards the Death Riders. You're doing some stuff in New Japan. Obviously, Callum Newman, like, tweeting about it and stuff. He's obviously going to miss Dominion, and everyone expecting him to drop the belt. So there are some clever, like, interlinks building up Forbidden Door, which is going to need a real push. I think that's open pre-sale at like 3,000. So it's in San Jose, which is going to be a tough market. So, that's good. But it's like, that's what they're looking for. They're just looking for something to get that sort of feeling. Whether it will or not, we'll see. But that's, to me, is what it feels like it's aimed at, because, like, you're fighting against that inevitability. You're fighting against that expectation. And I think expectation to win is so much more difficult than having something that's generated where people want to win. But that's where they are this year. So, just before we go, I've got a couple more things. So I've got a quick questions from Rambo and Slam.
I feel like we should take this for the next one. I think we should save the next one, and because I think we're running out of time today.
All right. Well, what I will say then, just to close off, is great number for Stardom's All-Star Grand Queendom this morning, 8,015 up from last year's 7,503, which had a retirement, and Sarion's, which is like a nuts number that shows you the benefit of long-term booking. If you want a full recap of the show, that will be on Joshing Around Weekly this week on Wednesday. Yep. Eric is out there at the moment, so you'll get a live review as well. And I wanted to finish on something nice, right? Because we finished so many of our podcasts lately on the worst parts of pro wrestling, right?
Right.
So I decided I wanted to finish on something nice, and I thought there's a story for a man like Doris, who is a UK independent wrestler from Birmingham, 0121. And he's currently the Progress Men's Progress Men's World Champion. And he told a story on social media. Just search his Twitter if you have Twitter to see it, because it's pretty cool to see the whole post. But basically, he was on his flight out to Las Vegas, and he was sat with a group of British women who were all older than him by a significant margin. And after being grumpy that he was in the middle of their group to start with, he helped them with a bit, and they got talking. And he invited them to the show. So he invited lots of kind of OAPs to Joey Janela's Spring Break, which might be the most dumb wrestler thing ever. But they came, and they had a whale of a time. He took pictures of him, and he was trying to get in contact with them. And so he put out a tweet, and he did. And the response is maybe the most British response I've ever seen in my practical life, right? Because it's very British. But the comment he got back was, "Hi, Doris, this is Susie, the woman on the left in a blue shirt who was sat next to you on the plane over. My grandchildren have shown me your posts, as I am very hard to find, haha. Was a shame you wasn't sat by me on the way back, because I was sat next to some old grumpy bastard. Please keep in touch, as we would love to come see you in London, Susie and the girls."
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, and out of all the stories for WrestleMania, like, the idea of this, like, young, black men's world champion in progress, like, guy that has, his whole gimmick is like, he's like a rapper, right? Not the CM Punk style rapper, like an actual rapper. And, like, he's essence of cool, that sort of thing, and him sat there with kind of 5 people that could be your gran, and inviting them to GCW, and then all this afterwards. It's just a lovely little story, and more of that in wrestling, less of all the other bullshit players.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, shout out to a man like Doris. Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. All right. Well, that will be it for today. I think we've gone through quite a lot. Lots of songs, John Moxley impressions. Just stealing John Pollock's gimmick.
Yeah. Yep. That's what we do.
That's what we do. What we do.
That's what we do.
What we do. That is a Triple H gimmick, isn't it? What we do. Yeah, man that couldn't he didn't open a show. Did you notice he didn't open shows?
He did not open WrestleMania. He was really nowhere to be found.
Yeah, didn't it appear on a post show he was advertised for? Just disappeared. Maybe the opening show gimmick only lasts for so long, like Cody Rhodes' babyface support. Anyway, right. My jokes get worse by the week. This has been the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. You can find us and all our other great podcasts on the network wherever you listen to your podcasts and on Red Circle. You can join us in the Social Suplex Discord where you can speak to all the hosts of the podcast as well as a world full of fascinating wrestling fans. They've had quite the week on Friday night especially in our Discord. Part of our network, you can listen to Tunnel Talk every Sunday. Yay! For the best breakdown of stories and character developments in AEW. Why do we single out Tunnel Talk? It's because Leah bullies us. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's because it's just a fantastic listen, and Leah is very responsible for every single thing we do here, and we always appreciate what she does. So I think that's worth a shout out for Tunnel Talk at the very least. But yeah, get your Tunnel Talk fix every Sunday on wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you want to send us a message, complain, tell us we are too futile to be real journalists. I don't know. Whatever you want. You can find us on Twitter at Trish and Sarah. You can find us on Blue Sky under our own names because that's never getting fixed and that's how it is. Or you can email us at trishandsarahpod@gmail.com. That is very much it for today. That's all I'm going to say here, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
So I've been Trish.
I've been Sarah.
And this has been the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for listening. It's what we do.
It's what we do.